Good morning. I'd like to call the March 19th, 2026 meeting of the San Diego County Water Authority Board of Directors to order at 9:09 a.m. Today's meeting is conducted in person with Director Quaylen participating remotely from the publicly accessible location included on the agenda. All votes, therefore, will be taken by roll call vote. As we move through our agenda, I will be moderating requests to speak. To request to speak, please press the speaker button at your seat. Director Scalzetti, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, Director Scalzetti. Madam Deputy Clerk, will you please call the roll and announce whether a quorum is present?
Secretary Acosta?
Here.
Directors Flessy?
Here.
Katz?
Here.
Hall?
Yes, present.
Coates Hedberg?
Here.
Scalzetti?
Here.
Vice Chair Hilliker? Absent. Directors Morrison? Absent. Director Sanchez is absent. Director Myers?
Present.
Rivera?
Present.
Roback is absent. Quaylen is currently absent. Directors Williams? Heidemann?
Here.
Norman?
Here.
Wall?
Here.
Abdullahi? Absent. Ayala?
Here.
Buckowitz?
Here.
Douglas?
Here.
Fong Sakai? Absent. Macedo?
Present.
Madaffer?
Present.
Molina? Serrano?
Here.
Chair Serrano? Director Whitburn? Supervisor Desmond? Director Lyons?
Here.
Freehoff?
Here.
Castaneda?
Here.
Kirschbaum?
Here.
Arant?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
And Ray. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. Do we have any proxies today?
We have two proxies. Director Arant is the proxy for Director Sanchez, and Director Rivera is the proxy for Director Roback.
Noted. Item 4 is public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the Board of Directors on items of interest within the subject matter of this Board of Directors. Madam Deputy Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak?
Yes, this is the time for public comment on items on the formal board agenda or on matters within the board jurisdiction. We have 9 speaker slips. The first speaker with the last name Ferrer, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Rhonda Farrar, and I'm the president and founder of the Friends of Lake Hodges. Our mission is to support government efforts to improve Lake Hodges dam safety, capacity, water quality, wildlife habitat, and public access for the benefit of the community. I'm also a proud graduate of the Water Academy of 2023. I'm speaking to you on behalf of the Friends of Lake Hodges, the Rancho Bernardo Community Council, the Friends of San Diego Lake, RaiseLakeHodges.org, and North County Climate Alliance. We respectfully ask the board to reconsider your position on funding the Lake Hodges Dam replacement. For over 100 years, Lake Hodges has been a crown jewel in North County, a vital drinking water reservoir, a critical habitat for wildlife, a recreational haven for hikers, bike birders, fishermen, and paddlers. But the dam that makes this lake possible is currently unsafe and in danger of failing. This isn't a future problem. This is a current crisis. The existing dam is 108 years old and deemed unsatisfactory by the DSOD. It is in the worst shape of all the dams in the state of California. When you withdrew your cost share commitment for replacing the dam, you cited your duty to keep the water rates low for your water customers. We respect that. We understand the fiscal reality that you face. Ratepayers are already protesting the increase in water rates based on the Water Authority's current commitments. But we ask you to look at the long-term picture for your customers and the value of the assets that you already own. The Water Authority has already invested $208 million in the pump station connecting Lake Hodges to Alevinheim Reservoir. Right now, because the lake level is so low, the station is sitting idle, costing ratepayers $3 million a year in lost revenue. You are losing money on an asset that was designed to generate power, a sustainable green power to 26,000 homes. And we are all paying for the infrastructure that we cannot use. Lake Hodges has the largest watershed in San Diego. 1 inch of rain can raise the lake level an entire foot. Rainwater is the least expensive source of water in the region, and the new dam is expected to last over 100 years. Losing the ability to capture rainwater and make it available to the entire region would be extremely short-sighted for our coastal desert region. Your estimated share of the cost of replacing the dam spread over the 100-year life is $2.5 million a year, which is less than the value of the electricity that we could be generating with the pump storage facility. But this isn't just about dollars and cents, it's about public safety. If the dam fails, it won't just be a financial loss, it will flood Rancho Santa Fe, Santa Grita River Valley, and threaten Del Mar. A new dam is an absolute necessity. Furthermore, the low level of the water has exposed 500 acres of lake bed. The lake bed is turned into a tinderbox of invasive grasses. We are willing to we are sitting in a proven fire corridor, the path of the Witch Creek and Cocos fires. A fire here would cost billions of dollars and destroy thousands of homes. We know the city of San
Thank you.
Diego.
Your time is up.
Oh my.
Oh, shoot.
Are you all right? No worries, please.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I just have another 30 seconds and my colleague who has exceeded time will be happy to continue this, or if you could let me finish my last 30 seconds, I'd be grateful. We are asking you to recommit to this project. We're asking you to work with the city, the downstream water district, state and federal representatives and agencies, and with us to find a path forward that puts the pump storage facility back in operation. The Water Authority owns half the water in that reservoir. You own the pumping station next door. You are a partner in this region, not just a bystander. The decisions you make in the coming months will echo for generations. We cannot allow paralysis and short-term budget concerns to condemn our communities to an unacceptable risk of wildfire, water waste, and potential dam failure. The time to replace Lake Hodges is now. For every month we wait, construction costs rise and the risk of catastrophic failure increases. We are gambling with a critical piece of infrastructure. On behalf of the thousands who live, work, and play around Lake Hodges, I urge you to reconsider your position and work with all of us to get this done. Thank you, and thank you for your consideration.
Next is Speaker Modi, and following that will be Speaker Caldwell.
I am also with the Friends of Lake Hodges, and I cede my time. Rhonda Farrar has said everything that our group is going to present. Thank you.
Speaker Caldwell. Thank you. Speaker Bernstein.
I'm Dr. Paul Bernstein, and I represent raiselakehodges.org. And there's over 80,000 San Diegans that basically support our position. And what we're all about is a no cost, that's right, a no cost, common sense solution to Lake Hodges Dam. So let me be clear. We support Friends of Lake Hodges. We want a new dam, but the new dam, even in the best case scenario, is not going to happen, as you all know, until at least 2034. In the meantime, keeping Lake Hodges at roughly 16% capacity is what we're doing now. 16% has created what CAL FIRE maps show as the highest fire risk in all of San Diego County. Hundreds of acres of exposed lake bed and dense brush, which historically were underwater and created a natural fire break, make now a continuous tinderbox. If a condition occurs during a Santa Ana wind, this fire could burn through Ramona to Del Dios to Rancho Santa Fe, all the way to Del Mar, potentially impacting 10,000 homes and billions of dollars of property damage. We've seen this before. We saw it in the Palisades, only this could be worse. The California Division of Safety of Dams has created a bigger risk than Los Angeles. Not only is the Lake Hodges Reservoir at historically low levels, but now there are hundreds and hundreds of acres of exposed brush that could really burn. Let's look at the probabilities. The chance of a major earthquake of 7 or greater creating a total dam failure is less than 0.1% per the U.S. Geologic Survey. The chance of a wildfire in this area per CAL FIRE is closer to 10%. The probability of a major wildfire is then, basically orders of magnitude greater than a dam failure. Yet current policy focuses completely on the downstream dam failure without weighing the upstream fire and wildlife consequences. The safest interim solution is to raise Lake Hodges just 15 feet, not as high as the ceiling, and still 20 feet below the top of the dam. The natural fire break is a no-cost solution. Just don't continue to drain the rain. Now, by the way, we can't just cut down the exposed weeds, as it's a protected area and there's 26 endangered wildlife. So we respectfully request that you all support a risk survey to look at the upstream and downstream consequences of keeping the lake low. 80,000 San Diegans basically support this common sense, no cost solution. So we hope you all can help save our homes and raise Lake Hodges.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Speaker Anshish.
Good morning. Are you hearing me? All right. Good morning, Chair, board members, and staff. My name is John Anschus. I'm representing RaiseLakeHodges.org as well. We're calling for the no-cost, common-sense interim solution that you just heard parts of. We fully support the Friends of Lake Hodges and their work toward a new dam, but with completion of not expected till into the 2030s, we must ask what happens in the meantime. Right now, Lake Hodges is held at 280 feet above sea level, and the San Dieguito River Valley is paying the price. This artificially low level prevents a functional connection with the Olivenhain Reservoir, which undercuts regional water management goals and flood risks strategies. Lake Hodges is more than a reservoir. It's a wildlife corridor, a wetland ecosystem, recreational asset, and an essential fire buffer. The ecological damage is already visible. The western grebes, known for their graceful mating pairs that run side by side across the top of the water, have nearly vanished. Their nesting population, once abundant, has declined to almost zero. If trend continues, they may disappear completely from Lake Hodges thereafter. Exposed lake beds are drying out, native vegetation is shifting, and entire habitats are collapsing, all because we're keeping the water at artificially low levels while long-term funding is pursued. Meanwhile, the city and county have invested, as you've heard, over $200 million in the Hodges Pump Storage Facility and Hydroelectric Plant, which allows rapid transfer of stormwater to the Olivenhain Reservoir if we have a atmospheric river. This reduces downstream flood risk and preserves regional water supply. Ironically, this higher lake level actually improves operational flexibility during rain events. The prudent path forward is simple. Raise Lake Hodges to 295 feet above sea level, still 25 feet below the dam crest, while continuing long-term dam planning. This balanced approach enhances fire safety, ecological preservation, and water supply resilience at no cost. Thank you for your leadership, attention, and commitment to Lake Hodges, one of San Diego's most vital natural and engineered resources.
Thank you. Speaker Hood is next, followed by Speaker Dudley.
Good morning. I agree with the prior speakers. I'm Joe Hood, president of North County Climate Change Alliance and a graduate of the Water Authority's Citizen Academy in 2023. Our planet has entered global water bankruptcy. From the Global Bankruptcy Report by the United Nations University 2026, billions remain water insecure. Surface waters are shrinking. Wetlands have been liquidated on a continental scale. Groundwater depletion and land subsidence are widespread and often irreversible. Cryosphere loss is liquidating critical water savings. Agricultural heartlands are running down their water capital. Land and soil degradation are amplifying water-related risks. Drought is increasingly anthropogenic and extremely costly. Water quality degradation is shrinking the truly usable resource space. The planetary freshwater boundary has been transgressed, and existing governance and agendas are no longer fit for purpose. Besides that, we have some water problems. Dams on the Colorado River may reach power dead pool this year or next. Reports say the Colorado River may deliver 2.3 million acre feet this year out of a committed 16.5 million acre feet. 2.3 out of 16.5. The San Diego gets most of its water from the Colorado River. What's our response to a deepening drought? Arizona and many other locations in the Southwest have severe water pressures. We may need to evacuate Corpus Christi, Texas, because they don't have water. Should we help them by using less river water? Surely the economics can be worked out. We've had several atmospheric rivers drop, quote, free precious water that we let flow into the ocean, because we've not replaced a dam that is long past its use-by date. And you want to vote against replacing it? In a global sense, in a national sense, in a California sense, it makes no sense. Lake Hodges Dam must be replaced. Please act now for our community and our planet.
Speaker Dudley, followed by Speaker Brown.
Good morning. I'm Robert Dudley. I represent the Friends of Lake Hodges and also the raiselakehodges.org. I'm concerned about fire, and I really want to compliment the previous speakers that I advocate that the San Diego County Water Authority continue its commitment to the emergency storage project and renew the repair of the pipeline between Lake Hodges and Liebenheim. I think that's an important thing for locally sourced water. It breaks our heart to see the water being let go to the ocean. So I'm hoping that the Water Authority, using its legislative power, will go to the state and ask for a temporary relaxation of the 280-foot limitation. It really should be somewhere in between that and the 295 level, which would make the pump storage station operational. So begin the repairs, please, and then commit to the emergency storage project and to locally sourced water. I think it would go a long way. So I thank you for your time.
Good morning. I think I'm next. My name is Courtney Brown. I'm a staff attorney with San Diego Coastkeeper. And I think I'm the only person here this morning that is not speaking about Lake Hodges Dam. Although I do really appreciate all of the comments I've heard earlier from other speakers, but I would have liked to comment solely on the substance of item 7A today, but instead I want to address some procedural concerns. Mainly, one concern is the order of public comment. And I think others from my organization have expressed this before, and I'm going to say the same thing again, but the fact that public comment is placed before staff presentation is concerning. In most forums, comments come after a presentation, so the public can respond to what's actually presented. While we can review the supplemental materials attached to the agenda, often those supplemental materials are released less than 24 hours in advance and contain hundreds of pages of extremely dense material. This is a massive barrier to entry for meaningful public participation. And with this in mind, we ask you to please consider restructuring meetings so the public can hear staff presentations before providing comment. Now, regarding 7A, I do want to say that Coastkeeper supports all efforts and appreciates all efforts to sell waters, but we would like to know how these proceeds are being allocated. San Diego Coastkeeper supports the maximum amount possible going towards rate suppression, and we would appreciate that during the staff commentary. Thank you.
Speaker Cannon.
So I'm just a citizen, but so I'm here to speak about Lake Hodges. I guess for me, we just live in a desert climate, and we're not capturing every bit of water that we get in this climate. And like some of the other speakers spoke about, it seems like we're getting less and less rainfall, and like Lake Powell is going dry. It's going to be dead pool. And the areas that we live in, this climate's desert. So living in this climate, I think we need to capture everything that we can. I think it really just improves the community because we have more water for the area. Maybe it does keep down water prices. Why are we buying so much water when we can actually capture it here when we get the water, when we get the rain? Last time I checked, the ocean is not getting low. I think we should capture every bit of water that we're actually getting, every bit of rainfall that we're getting, because it's just such a dry climate. So I just really hope that you guys, we spent all this money in the transfer station to try to, generate power and electricity, hundreds of millions of dollars. And if we just let the dam go, what was all that money for? Why did we spend all that money just to watch the lake go away and turn into a riverbed? So I'm not with any organization or affiliation, but I just see how all the lakes in Southern California are getting lower and lower. And when we're in a crisis and needing water, and they're like, well, where are we going to get our water from? Well, maybe we can get it from San Vicente because we're buying that water from the aqueduct, I guess, or whatever. But it doesn't seem smart to me. It seems like we should have watershed areas all over. And this is established for over 100 years. Why not fix it? Why not make it a viable location to be a reservoir, be a good water source for everybody? So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all our in-house speakers. If there are speakers in the Zoom waiting room, please raise your hand through the Zoom app or press *9 if listening by phone. I see no further speakers.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. I want to thank all of the members of the public who joined us this morning to provide their comments to the Board of Directors. Trust me when I say that we all consider your feedback as we move forward on all of the items mentioned. Again, thank you for taking the time to be here. Item 5 is our additions to the agenda. Madam Deputy Clerk, do we have any additions to today's agenda?
There are no additions.
Thank you. That brings us to item 6. We have one closed session item on this morning's agenda. General Counsel Edwards, will you please take us into closed session?
We will now adjourn into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. We have emerged from closed session and have nothing to report.
All right. We will now take up item 7, which is our action, discussion, and information items. Item 7A is recommending the ratification of an exchange water delivery agreement between the San Diego County Water Authority and the Western Municipal Water District. I will now turn the floor over to our general manager.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here, members of the public and some of our guests who we're going to have an opportunity to hear from in a little bit. The path to today was not quick, and it was not easy, and it was not without challenges. But I think that it does represent a continued evolution of this region and this board that has always embraced an entrepreneurial spirit towards water supply development and making tough decisions that allow the staff to feel empowered. The staff takes confidence in this governing body and being able to go out and do things that are entrepreneurial, that are cutting edge, that are groundbreaking. So thank you to this board for even allowing us to get to this point. Let's go to the first slide, because there's always a timeline that doesn't ever do justice to the true story of what's really happening. But I think that you all do know our story. And I think that water agencies across the West know our story. We have been at the cutting edge of water supply innovation for many years. First through an environmentally conscious water conservation agreement with the Imperial Valley. We, of course, doubled down on that with the Carlsbad desal plant, and we're going to continue to double down locally and be able to support our own local water supply development within the Water Authority family through coordination with our member agencies. The TAP works, the infrastructure works, and I think that the long-term planning has afforded our way of life and supported our economy here in San Diego. You may have heard of a dispute that we were once in within the MWD family. That dispute permeated minds and water policy throughout the Southwest. That dispute stunned the growth of this agency, arguably stunned the growth of Southern California. And it strained our relationships. Over the past 3 years, we all in this room and even our colleagues in this room have done a great deal of work to repair those relationships and build them into something different, something that's going to sustain Southern California and the Southwest as we all use the Colorado River and the State Water Project. What I'm about to present to you is largely the byproduct of that different relationship. 8 months ago, we settled our disputes with Metropolitan, and together we built a framework of success for a water transfer market, the creation of a water transfer market within the Met family. And that's what this is all about. Next slide, please. So we set up a process through the settlement agreement where the Water Authority has the ability to take some portion, 50,000 acre feet worth of its water, conserved water from the QSA, and offer it up to a Metropolitan member agency if available. Right now, our supplies exactly equal our demands. Moving forward, however, as local water supply development continues to come online through the hard work of our member agencies, we anticipate having additional water. And that's not going to be a sacrifice of water to this region. We're going to be able to exchange water within the Met family with no harm to our folks here locally. I sent out a letter in September trying to gauge interest from folks as to whether or not they were interested. Many meetings occurred, more than 20, I would say. And we got to the point where agencies expressed their interests. We had formal discussions with them. Before you today is Western Municipal Water District, who is the first out of the gate, the first partnership the first spinoff of the agreement that we have through the settlement agreement with the Metropolitan Water District. We've been actively working with them since October, and today we're going to put before you a action to approve a long-term exchange agreement with Western. Next slide, please. Let me tell you a little bit about them. They serve a population of nearly 1 million residents in Riverside County. Retail, water, sewer, and recycled services. They are part of the Met family, of course, a Met member agency. With 14, they're a wholesaler to 14 other agencies, retail agencies in their service area. Much like the Water Authority, they're looking to diversify their resource mix. They already have a diversified resource mix. And just like we have a handful of colors on our pie charts, they're looking to add one to their pie chart. And I think that this is going to be groundbreaking for them as much as it is for us with developing new supply with no new infrastructure, which I can't emphasize enough. I think that this is a cost-effective solution to dry year water opportunities, and those dry year water opportunities are right in front of us. Next slide, please. I want to explain what I think is a pretty basic framework. We'll see how I do. Go ahead and click through all of the graphics here. But the basic framework is that conserved water that we make available through the QSA finds its way into the metropolitan distribution system. It's then exchanged for a like quantity and quality of MWD water. So the MWD water comes from many sources. It comes from the State Water Project. It comes from the Colorado River. It's local storage, et cetera. That resource mix is exchanged and the water is delivered to San Diego. We have the ability through the exchange agreement to determine the demand, the deliveries based on our own demand profile. That's something new from the settlement agreement that's been very beneficial and helpful to our region. Instead of getting all of the water in equal amounts over a 12-year period, we have the ability to get it when we need it most. What I just described is essentially what gets extended to Western. As the water makes its way down through the aqueduct, instead of continuing downhill, it makes a right or left turn. It's no more simple than that. In exchange for that right or left turn, the Western becomes part of the exchange with the Water Authority, and the deal happens. Next slide, please. In terms of just the themes that we set forth based on this board's priorities, all the agencies that I spoke with over the past several months, what came out of my mouth a lot was durability. And durability is very important in this, and Western understood that. That's evidenced by the fact that they were willing to be long-term partners with us out through 2047, and hopefully beyond that when we extend the transfer agreement with the Imperial Irrigation District out to 2077. In the end, what we were really attempting to do with this new framework was balance the delta between our contract supplies and flat demands. We all know what's happening in Southern California. We are not unique. Population has slowed in many areas. 2 consecutive wet years built up storage. Southern California is sitting on millions of acre feet worth of storage at this point. And not necessarily the sales that's going to empty the reservoirs. We're all dealing with this dilemma, and this Western agreement helps us rebalance that resource mix. It also helps balance the sales variability and fixed cost contracts that we have here at the Water Authority. Anything that we can do to reduce those costs, pay those fixed contracts by exchanging water, getting water off our books is what I like to say. Is going to benefit ratepayers across the county, not just with this agreement with Western, but with agreements that we hope to ink with other partners in the long term. Next slide, please. So I just want to go over some of the key terms. We're initially talking about 10,000 acre feet a year for 21 years through 2047. The price point that we developed, that we negotiated together, is $1,350 an acre foot. What this means to the Water Authority is a net present value revenue of $13.5 million a year, which is supplemented by upfront payment of $39 million from Western for an advance of 30,000 acre feet worth of water. Western has the ability and has the ability to add on to that 10,000 acre feet worth of water that we're asking them to contract to. When we go through this process next year in 2027, if we have available supplies, Western has the ability to get first dibs at some of that water on a go-forward basis, in addition to other member agencies. They do have the ability to automatically extend this post 2047, and I believe that this is going to prove to be a great partnership, and I think that that's where we'll land. The last bullet point here: assurance to buy remaining water if offered by the Water Authority. What we're talking about is this is 10,000 acre feet now. We hope to have other partners within the Met family become part of this. And really what we're talking about is the balance of the 50,000 acre feet worth of water that we have through the settlement agreement with Metropolitan. Next slide, please. A tiny bit repetitive, but nonetheless, the $13.5 million is worth referencing again as it relates to rates. The net present value of $330 million over the term of the agreement and $100 million in the first 5 years of the agreement. It builds flexibility. It provides us the flexibility that we need right now. You've all heard of the contract supplies that we have through the quantification settlement agreement and the desal plant. The desal plant is not at full capacity right now. It will be in the future, but right now our demands don't necessitate it. And when new supply comes online through our member agencies, we have lost sales, and there's no easier way to put that. The deal with Western helps mitigate that for the Water Authority, and I hope gets us back to, I'm confident that it will get us back to a smooth and predictable rate cycle on a go-forward basis. Next slide, please. So just in terms of the regional benefits, of course, it maximizes our existing assets and secures a long-term partnership with a Met member agency. I can't stress that enough. Within the Met family, it's become very apparent that a mindset has changed amongst general managers, amongst board members. I would like to think that that's due to partially due to the settlement agreement with the Water Authority. But I think that the world is changing so fast that we're all having to do things differently and view the world through a different lens. And that lens is not a zero-sum game for someone when negotiating long-term transfer agreements or even just developing policy. Western secures long-term reliability, the same type of reliability that the Water Authority has through the quantification settlement agreement with its high priority access to water in the Imperial and Coachella valleys. Yes, the river is in a dire situation, but this again is high priority conserved Colorado River water. Western has agreed if there are ever cuts that ever hit the Imperial Valley, ever hit that water supply, they will take their pro rata share of those reductions alongside the Water Authority. And that's all encapsulated in the agreement that we have. I think what this does for Metropolitan is it allows Metropolitan to continue to invest in local water supply development within the region. It frees up, if you will, to put it very simply, 10,000 acre feet worth of water. If Metropolitan is cut in some form, has to have a water supply allocation, this is water that does not have to be allocated. It's a very important tool for Metropolitan as it is for Western and the Water Authority. Additionally, Metropolitan will continue to receive transportation revenue from this agreement. It will come at the same rate that was negotiated as part of the settlement agreement with the Water Authority. I just think in general, it supports the long-term regional planning and drought resilience efforts across 2 counties in Riverside and in San Diego. I wanted to take this opportunity to ask Western, next slide, please. General Manager Craig Miller and President Laura Bruton, if you like to make some comments about the proposed agreement.
That was a great presentation. Chair Serrano, Board of Directors, General Manager Denham, thank you for having us here. It was great seeing you yesterday at our board meeting. We really appreciate you coming down. Yeah, this is, it's a great agreement, but I think as Dan's talking about, it's a shift in the way that we plan water resources. And, I want to make sure that I acknowledge Chair Ortega behind me, Board Member Camacho and Shivaji Deshmukh, the General Manager. I don't know how to talk to them when they're behind me. But I do want to emphasize the value of ending the litigation. As a Met member agency, we've been sitting and watching this for years and years and years. And it's tying our hands in what we can do as a Met family. And we need to get out of that. And so the leadership of this board and the leadership of Chair Ortega and the Met board really opened the door to more sophisticated water resources planning. And so that was a really important element of this agreement. This agreement would not have happened without that. But there's more. Chair Ortega organized the Met member agencies to come together in a closed door environment with the general managers, not with the board, the general managers, to really evaluate Met's business model. And an important thing that came out of that was that the general managers, like myself, wanted to be able to exchange resources. That was not allowed. And so Metropolitan and their leadership being open to member agency sharing was fundamental to opening the door for this agreement. So I can't be here without acknowledging both boards because it wouldn't have happened. We all know how expensive it is to build infrastructure, big CIP infrastructure. So it's such a great opportunity to be able to share water supply without investing billions of dollars in redundant infrastructure. And that's what this agreement is. This is fully utilizing a secured water source to the benefit of Southern California. Who got the drops? It doesn't matter for Southern California, just as long as someone gets the drops. If we're going to make these investments and pay this money, the water has to be fully utilized. And that's what we're doing with this agreement and collaboration. This is where the future of water is in California. Future of water in the West. Look at all the problems we're having on coming up with a solution on the Colorado River. This is a model for that collaboration and partnership. We're going to continue to build on this. For Western, we've had a long drive to diversify our portfolio. This is 10,000 acre feet every year of diversification for that portfolio. Just as important to us is flexibility in our long-term water supply resiliency. So that 30,000 acre feet of one-time purchase that we can determine the delivery schedule on is perfect for our goals to develop a pot of water for long-term resiliency. We are the fastest growing region in the state of California, Riverside County. We're one of the fastest growing regions in the country. So you hear a lot of talk in California about growth isn't happening. Well, we have an enormous business expansion and growth and economic development that's happening in Riverside County. And so being able to share these resources to meet our goals is really, really important. I want to thank the staff. Dan, your leadership has been great. Your council's leadership, our partners sitting next to me, great. My team sitting back here wouldn't have happened without a creative staffing environment. For you board members, one of the things that my staff would tell me in the hallway, those are the good conversations, right? What happens in the hallway before the meeting? My staff comes to me and says, San Diego's been fabulous to work with, and we're going to figure this out. And, as a general manager, that's just the most rewarding thing ever. And we got there. So just to wrap up, I want to thank my staff, your staff, the creativity of both boards to allow something like this to happen. This is a real success in partnership. I hope it serves as a pathway and a model. This opportunity is going to be available for other Met member agencies, as Dan was talking about. And I just hope that our success with you is going to be a model for everyone else to follow. So thank you very much.
Good morning. And I do want to emphasize it is a good morning. So I am Laura Roten, board president for the Western Municipal Water District. And I want to thank General Manager Dan Denneman, Chair Serrano, and the members of this board for the opportunity to be here today. At Western Municipal Water District, we serve nearly 1 million residents, as you heard on an earlier slide, in Western Riverside County. And our responsibility is to plan ahead so our communities can rely on safe, dependable water every single day. This agreement is the result of long-term planning, which allows us to strengthen our water supply portfolio, diversify our resources, and helps ensure we can continue to meet the needs of our communities. What makes this especially meaningful is that it builds on existing investments. Rather than pursuing entirely new supply projects, this partnership allows us to take advantage of reliable water that is already available, making it a thoughtful and cost-effective approach for our customers. I want to recognize the teams that made this possible. Agreements like these require a tremendous amount of coordination and commitment, and we appreciate the incredible work from both agencies. I'd also like to acknowledge the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California with appreciation for Metropolitan's leadership in creating opportunities for innovative regional collaboration, including partnerships like this one that strengthen water supply reliability. You may have noticed a theme running through today's remarks, and you'll probably still hear it even after I speak. Partners and partnerships. According to Google, the source, key qualities of partners include shared goals, trust, and complementary skills, offering benefits like increased resources, shared risk, and diverse expertise. This agreement and the process to get here today exemplify these key qualities. We're proud to partner with the San Diego County Water Authority and look forward to continuing our work together into the future. Thank you.
I'd like to ask the Met leadership team there in the front row, Chair Ortega or GM Sivaji Deshmukh.
Chair Serrano and General Manager Dan Denham, it's a great pleasure to be here to enjoy the fruits of many, many years of planning and partnership and trust building. As you indicated, Mr. General Manager, the first ripple was the settlement agreement last year. This is the second ripple of benefit of this partnership and creativity. The third ripple, I think, is about to happen with the conclusion, hopefully sooner than later, of an MOU that would authorize interstate transfers. So this basic concept of greater regionalism, as the chairman likes to say, Chairman Serrano, is part of the solution to the crises that we're going to start facing as early this summer. As Vice Chair of the Colorado River Board, Jim Medaffer, has been telling us. It's been my belief through my entire term as chair that the general managers, I want to pay tribute to them, play the role of our agency's founders. Our agencies were founded by the Chambers of Commerce, who recognized the need for more water as a way to drive growth as our regions sought to prosper. In the modern age, the Chambers of Commerce have kind of lost interest. They've got a lot of other priorities. And the people that are in the best position to understand that nexus between the forces in society and our need to provide water supply are the general managers. They're the ones that are interacting on a day-to-day basis with housing groups and environmental groups and consumers that need to trust water. So I've placed a great deal of trust in them by creating the task force that Mr. Miller indicated that I did in order to bring us the business model components that are necessary for this new phase that we're in. So since the 1970s, we've been very aware of the environmental impacts and the sensitivities that we have. The pioneers in this movement, similar to who William Mulholland was. I mean, remember William Mulholland, he was not educated in engineering. He was not well-resourced in the way that we later became. He was a person who had a knack for understanding what it would require to transport water a long distance. I would suggest that the environmental community has filled that role in modern times as we've had to face the realities of climate change. And where we're at now is we need to bring it home. I think that our agencies are the most well-resourced. Our professionals are the best educated, the most credentialed, and have the resources that we provide them to take us into the future. So with that, I want to thank the general managers. I want to thank your board for empowering your staff. I want to thank your general manager in particular for giving so much of his time as a member of our board of directors. And then I also want to recognize Mel Katz, who was the chairman of this board during the early part of my chairmanship, who very diligently and consciously involved our chairman today, Nick Serrano, on every step that we were taking to build confidence as we were putting aside past controversies and issues to get us to this point. So I want to thank you. And I also want to note that it's by osmosis. I don't think it was by design that our general manager at Metropolitan is a former member agency manager. So I don't think I ever pitched that to the board, but it came out through osmosis, and I'm grateful. And I think we all have the future's in good hands with our leadership. And Shivaji, would you like to make a few comments? Thanks.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Serrano, members of the board. It's always so nice to be in San Diego. You hear that a lot. Today is even better. This is my first opportunity to be able to address your board. So for that, I'm extremely grateful. And it's extra special to be able to do that as we celebrate this milestone. I'll keep it brief this morning. I want to just express my appreciation to Chair Ortega and Chair Serrano and our respective boards for not only settling this longstanding litigation last year, but also being able to pivot and develop a framework that appropriately views water management without the constraints of political boundaries. This is how water should be managed, and this is an amazing first step. I'm so grateful to be part of an organization, especially onboarding with a new job, being set up for success like this. So as Chair mentioned, this is just the start. We look forward to other ways to partner not only with the County Water Authority, but with our member agencies to not just look within the metropolitan service area, but to look at our entire Colorado River Basin watershed as an opportunity. And so we're very close to finalizing some great concepts related to interstate transfers. And for that, I'm extremely grateful. I also want to just point out on a more personal note, it's fitting that this partnership is being kicked off between Western Municipal Water District, or Western Water, and the San Diego County Water Authority. At the staff level, these agencies are represented by two general managers who not only look out for the interests of the service areas they support, but think regionally. And both of them have had a tremendous impact, not only on statewide water resources, but throughout the Colorado River. So I want to extend a special appreciation to General Manager Craig Miller and General Manager Dan Denham for their leadership over the past few years. With that, I just want to say thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Shivaji and Adon. Let's go to the next slide. So this is the staff recommendation to ratify an exchange water delivery agreement between the San Diego County Water Authority and the Western Municipal Water District. This is up for the board's consideration. I would pass it to Chair Serrano.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. In closing this presentation, I do want to thank our partners at Met who are here today. I think it is important. I think it's significant. I think it's a good signal for the future of water. I also want to thank our colleagues and I think soon-to-be partners at Western for being here as well. Colleagues, to close this item, I want to invite us to take stock of this moment and reflect on what it represents. Because what we are considering this morning is much more than just a contract or an agreement. For one, it's a concept that has been thought of, discussed, perhaps even dreamed about for years. And yet for so long, it was deemed too hard, too complicated, too complex, and therefore unthinkable, impossible. For two, it's the culmination of a great deal of work, a great deal of intention, and I would submit to you a great deal of change. But most of all, it is a historic step, not just forward, but I believe in a new direction for this agency and for our Southern California region. A direction rooted in partnership, in collaboration. In every sense, as you've heard, This moment was made possible by our settlement with the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California just 8 months ago. And I think it's important to say that very clearly, because that decision was significant, not simply because it resolved a dispute that had gone on for too long. It was significant because it represented a choice to move beyond division, conflict, and looking backward, a choice to turn the page together and begin a new chapter, a choice to begin building something different, something more constructive, something more collaborative, something that recognizes that the water challenges facing all of us are simply too great to keep fighting yesterday's battles. And this agreement is one of the first real demonstrations of what that new chapter can look like. It is a first of its kind partnership that leverages the investments San Diego County ratepayers made over decades. Those investments were made to ensure that our region would be resilient, to ensure that we would have safe and reliable water, to ensure that San Diego County would not again find itself vulnerable. And today, because of those investments, because of the system we built, and because of the flexibility that system now provides, we have the opportunity to put those investments to work in a way that benefits our ratepayers, supports regional resilience, and helps address broader challenges facing Southern California and the Colorado River, showing that San Diego can lead not only by preparing for itself, but by extending its hand in partnership to others in a moment when that partnership is needed. And that to me is what makes this item so important, because ultimately it reflects a new model, a model where agencies do not always have to start by building something new, a model where we ask how we can better utilize existing infrastructure, existing supplies, and existing investments to strengthen reliability for more people. A model where collaboration is not just rhetoric, but action. I have said repeatedly since becoming chair that we do need a new notion of regionalism in water. One not confined by county lines, one that does not cling to old fights, one that acknowledges a simple truth. We have far more in common than what divides us. We share the same pressures. We share the same responsibilities. And increasingly, we share the same future. This agreement reflects that mindset. We succeed or we fail together. For San Diego County, this agreement helps ensure that the investments our residents made continue to deliver value. For Western, it strengthens long-term supply planning and drought resilience. And for the broader region, it sends an important message that in the moment of real pressure on the Colorado River and real challenge across the West, agencies here in Southern California can still come together, work together, and lead together. Because the future of water in Southern California will not be secured by any one agency acting alone. It will be secured by our willingness to collaborate, to innovate, and to recognize that our futures are shared. And if we continue to approach the challenges ahead in that same spirit, then I'm confident of this. What was once called impossible can become our new model. What was once unthinkable can become the standard for how we lead and meet our mission. And the future of water in Southern California will not be defined by scarcity or division. It will be defined by partnership. We owe a tremendous amount of thanks to our general manager, Dan Denham, our director of imported water, Mina Westford, and Alex Heidi, and her entire imported water team, our general counsel, and Michael McDonald, who I see here in the room with us, our finance team, Pierce sitting in the front row, and I see Lisa Marie Harris in the back. Everyone in this room from the San Diego County Water Authority who made this a priority and has been working all hours towards this day. I want to extend the same gratitude to their counterparts at Western and Metropolitan, some who, as you know, are here today, and some perhaps who are not. This is a historic moment, not easy, not simple, but meaningful. And I think particularly to the ratepayer and what becomes possible when institutions are willing to challenge what has always been and ask what can be. And I would submit to you that this is exactly the kind of leadership that this moment demands. With that, I am proud to move the item, and I respectfully request your yes vote. I will turn it now to Vice Chair Hilliker.
Thank you very much, Chair Serrano. Yes, this is a new dawn in the age of water in San Diego. You know, we are known for being on the cutting edge, and obviously this is on the cutting edge. And we are known, it's really interesting. We go back to DC, we talk with the Department of Interior, we'll talk with some of the higher up staffers, and they'll go, yeah, San Diego, you guys are doing it right. We need more people to think like you do. But Chair Serrano said everything else that's needed to be said, so therefore I second the motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hilliker. There is a motion by myself, a second from Vice Chair Hilliker. We'll go now to Secretary Acosta.
Is the right microphone? Okay, great. Thank you. I feel like so much of what I want to say has already been said so eloquently by our chair, and again by our vice chair. I know that out in the public, there are a lot of questions about what we're doing when we talk about rates, when we talk about affordability, and we've been telling them great things are happening. And I hope that this is proof that this is a real public showing of how we have made changes, how we have overcome some of our issues in the past that dominated, like our relationship with Met, which is in a brand new chapter, and we're so excited. So thank you all to your leadership for being here. Thank you to Western for knowing a great deal when you see it, and for your comments as well. And especially a big thank you to our staff led by Dan Denham for their creativity, for, as he said, their entrepreneurial spirit. All of you have been so creative and so thoughtful and really pushed us forward. I know that it took a ton of work, that it was not easy. And here we are in a place where we're going to move forward with something very exciting and really set the tone for a new era. So I just want to thank you all for your hard work and partnership, and I'm happy to support this. Thanks.
Thank you, Secretary Acosta. Director Madaffer.
I just want to make a couple of comments, and that's what we're witnessing today is how water should be managed in the West. Today's action sets a new standard. It demonstrates leadership in the lower basin that is very serious in managing the very strained Colorado River. You know, from our partners and farmers in the Imperial Valley to Metropolitan to its member agencies, and the partnership we share with Palo Verde, Coachella, and the tribal water contractors, this is a new beginning. I almost would refer to today's action as QSA Part 2. Beyond today's action, and totally separate, is what we heard from Chair Ortega. And that is a new beginning where we look to this MOU, not part of today's discussion, but it doesn't go without being mentioned. And it's not about moving QSA water, but in this case, rather new water from the Pacific Ocean that would move desalinated water to Arizona and Nevada. Today marks a historic change for water in the West. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Madaffer. Director Abdullahi.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to speak. And I'll be remiss if I did not mention this. I honestly want to just take a moment to also thank the leadership. I may trip over my own 2 feet, but I will not trip over my words when I say this, that this definitely is historic, is groundbreaking, it is strategic, it is future forward looking. And I think one of the things that always comes to my mind, change happens at the speed of trust. You can tell that relationships have been built, trust is there, and it took a while to get here. And now that we are able to look at this delivery agreement and look to the leadership here at the Water Authority, as well as the leadership at Western and Metropolitan, this is a breakthrough moment that really shows that this region is serious about the relationships and the trust that it's building so that the ratepayers and our institutions can benefit. So thank you all for your leadership, for your work, and staff. No words need to be said. You all are amazing.
Thank you, Director Abdullahi. Seeing no further speakers, Madam Deputy Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Secretary Acosta?
Yes.
Director Squessi?
Yes.
Katz?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes, approved.
Coates Hedberg?
Absolutely.
Scalzetti?
Yes.
Vice Chair Hilliker?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Rivera?
Yes.
Roback?
Yes.
Heidemann?
Yes.
Norman?
Yes.
Wall?
Yes. Powerful yes.
How many votes was that?
Abdullahi?
A resounding yes.
Ayala?
Yes.
Buckowitz?
Yes.
Douglas?
Yes.
Macedo?
Yes.
Madaffer?
1000%.
Molina?
Hell yes.
Serrano?
Yes.
Director Lines?
Yes.
Freehoff?
Yes.
Castaneda?
Yes.
Kirschbaum?
Yes.
Arant?
Of course.
Miller?
Yes.
There, it should be coming up. It passes.
Thank you again, everybody. There being no further business at the time, the Board of Directors meeting will now recess until this afternoon following the standing committee meetings. We anticipate being back around 11:45.
Everyone, we're going to be convening to the front of the building for a press conference.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think we have a quorum. Now that we've gotten through the mundane items from this morning, we are here for the all-important Imported Water Committee of today. Good afternoon. I'm Chair Myers, and this meeting's called to order. Maricel, can you please call the roll?
Chair Myers,
Present.
Vice Chair Katz,
Here.
Vice Chair Madaffer,
Here.
Directors Ayala,
Here.
Castañeda, Blessy, Fong Sakai, is absent, Heidemann, Kirschbaum, Miller, Paul,
Yes, present.
Rivera,
Present.
Scalzetti,
Here.
and Serrano.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum of the committee.
Thank you very much. As we discussed that on the agenda, I will be calling on directors who push their speaker button. Please limit your comments to matters not already addressed and state all of your points when you have a chance to speak so we can move through our agenda. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
No additions to the agenda.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask if there are any public speakers.
Calling on public comment for matters on the Imported Water Committee agenda or within the jurisdiction of the committee. If there are public speakers in the Zoom waiting room, please raise your hand through the Zoom app or press *9 if you are listening by phone. Chair, we have no speakers.
Great. Moving on to the chair's report. Of course, we have the delivery agreement that was entered into this morning. And that's a historic step in our partnership with others to support resiliency. We just had the signing ceremony about an hour ago with Western Municipal Water District. And, again, we'd like to thank, and I'd like to personally thank the representatives of Western and Metropolitan for coming down and all the collaboration. And I just want to add, I think that we should add thanks and be proud of our committee, because our committee is the Imported Water Committee. Most of what happened today has flowed through this committee and has the support and the partnership of this committee. So I thank all of you personally for being here, for the work that you've done, and for our part in the collaboration on that. So thank you. Moving on to regional items. The state of California has set forth its California Water Plan 2028. It's a major update to the state's long-term water strategy. It's described by state leaders as the most ambitious statewide water planning effort in decades. It's intended to offset water losses expected from climate change. And we're seeing from this heat wave that we certainly have issues both north, south, east, and west when it comes to snowpack and these extreme drought cycles. They've set a statewide target to add or secure, and each of those are separate items that warrant separate review, add or secure 9 million acre feet of water supply by 2040. We'll be participating and monitoring, and we'll be coming back in the future for more information about the city's plan and how they suggest adding or securing that 9 million acre feet of water. Moving next kind of east, the Colorado Drought River Response Plan. I think we're all very aware of what's happening with the conditions of the Colorado River Basin. Colorado's experiencing the warmest year in its recorded history so far, and also one of its driest. Yesterday, Colorado's governor took a step closer to declaring a drought and activating the state's drought task force and phase 2 of Colorado's drought response plan. If conditions worsen, Colorado's governor could declare an official drought with a move to its phase 3 drought conditions. On the same general topic of the Colorado River and the post-2026 guidelines, the Water Authority has submitted its comment letter earlier this month to Reclamation on the draft environmental impact statement for the post-2026 guidelines. As I think we all know, a consensus was not reached. Therefore, the ball went into the Court of Reclamation in the federal government that is in the process of considering and the draft environmental impact statement, and we made our comments toward it. We thank the member agencies here at the Water Authority who joined us in submitting comments. The Water Authority's letter focused on the need for flexible management strategies on the river including interstate and intrastate transfers and exchanges, something that we can say that we are certainly taking the lead on. We'll look forward to future presentations from staff as the process continues to develop and those new guidelines continue. I will now move to director's comments. Are there any director's comments? Any comments from vice chairs? Thank you. There are no items on the consent calendar. We have 4 action discussion presentation items today. We'll start with the action item, which is to amend the agreement for consulting services with M Strategic Communications. And I'll throw this to General Manager Denham.
Mr. Chair, let me just make a motion to approve that item.
All right, we have a motion from Chair Madaffer and a second from, I'm sorry, Chair Madaffer, from Director Madaffer and a second from Director Ayala, or from, all right, Scalzetti. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a vote. Roll call. I think, do we have someone online? Okay, well then we don't need a roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye, no, nay.
Any
whatever you say.
abstentions? The motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the delegates report from MWD. In the interest of time, we'll combine this item and have the delegates provide their comments under the following item, since the metropolitan budget was primary topic. So we're going to have the presentation on the Metropolitan Water District budget. Mina Westford will introduce the item and the staff, and then we'll have Met delegate comments as part of this presentation.
Thank you, Chair Myers. I'm still basking in this morning, so sorry if I stumble. But I do want to say that myself and my team really appreciate the support we felt today and the accolades, and so thank you very much. There is one unsung hero that I don't think gets enough credit, and that's Marisol Gonzalez up there, because she had to book all those reservations and meetings and change my schedules. And so I just want to make sure you guys say thank you to Marisol for that. She made sure Alex and I were where we were supposed to be on time. But the next item, back to business, the next item is a presentation on the Metropolitan Water District's proposal for their FY 26-27 and FY 27-28 biennial budget. This item is important as it outlines Metropolitan's spending priorities and anticipated rates impacts for its member agencies. And while the Water Authority's diversified supply portfolio helps buffer our region from some of Metropolitan's cost increases, Metropolitan's rates still influence the overall cost of water in San Diego. And so to give the presentation this afternoon is Alex Heidi, who's going to walk us through the key elements of their proposed budget and the implications for our agencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mina, and good afternoon, Chair Myers and Imported Water Committee. I'm going to go through the Metropolitan biennial budget. Just in the interest of time, we're going to keep it relatively brief, but hit on the key policy decisions that the board will make as part of their biennium process. So just background, Metropolitan adopts a 2-year budget. The next budget starts in July and will run 2 fiscal years. They backed up their process a little bit this last cycle, which I think a lot of agencies and directors appreciated. They started back in September with some informational workshops on staffing and their capital improvement project process. A lot of that really was part of a process to outline decisions Metropolitan had made in the past have really impacted the current biennium. Part of that being that there had been staffing requests as part of previous budgets that went unfilled, and they had also cut back on CIP, not necessarily keeping up with current maintenance and need for investment in their system. So they kicked those workshops off in September and October. That really started their budget process. Then in February, they had their first proposal that incorporated a rate increase. As part of that February proposal, they were proposing 9.5% rate increases per year over the biennium. So for a total cumulative increase of 19%. The other thing I'll just point out as part of Metropolitan's proposal is as part of their sales projection, which has a very big impact on Metropolitan's overall rate increase. They're seeing the lowest sales in recent history at 1.2 million acre feet. There was a point in time in not too distant past where Metropolitan was seeing near 2 million acre feet of sales. So it's quite a change. As part of their proposal, and this comes from their February proposal, there's been a couple changes between February and today that have lowered this very slightly, but this just gives a look over the biennium. So as part of their baseline rate drivers, this is how the 19% gets made up across the two bienniums. Their departmental O&M is a 7% increase. They have state water project costs, mainly related to infrastructure fixes in the Delta, and a smaller portion of subsidence that has increased over prior years. On top of that, the board took a decision as part of the current biennium to fund the next phase of DCP planning, which is $116 million, which will come out of the next biennium. Then they're planning on increasing their CIP program, which I'll go through in a little bit more detail in a future slide, but that adds an additional 1.5% onto their increase. And then they have a multi-year staffing plan, which I'll also go into some detail on, which adds a little bit over 1%. And then some funding for a 45 MGD pure water Southern California project, which doesn't have a huge impact in the current biennium. The majority of it is grant funded, but there is about 56 million that would be funded out of Metropolitan's funds to match those grants. That adds on an additional 1%. And then that very last line item is some increases in purchasing zero emission vehicles and associated infrastructure to meet CARB requirements, which adds a little bit less than 0.5%. So that's how you get to the 19% that they've proposed. This is split between 2 fiscal years, so just keep that in mind. Just helpful to see how that 19% has come to. This is something that Metropolitan put together, which shows really the level of impact between both discretionary and non-discretionary expenditures. Off on the left-hand side, you can see about 90% of their expenditures are either staffing related to prior MOUs or agreement related or commitments that they've made that the board doesn't really have the ability to change those funds. There's another 11%, which makes up those bullets on the right-hand side, the 270 million, which is much easier for the board to use as a lever to help reduce that 19% rate increase. A couple of those things that the board can look at is their PAYGO funding. That makes up about 200 million of the 270 million of their discretionary funds, Delta conveyance, project planning, and then some funding for both conservation and their local resource project program. So this slide here, these are two related items, both on the left-hand side related to staffing and on the right-hand side related to their CIP investments. Both of these are tied together. Metropolitan has made a case for the need for investment in additional staff because they are focused predominantly on the O&M side on doing corrective maintenance rather than preventative maintenance. That has resulted in the organization not necessarily being quite as efficient in the work that they could do. So what they've proposed is a multi-biennium staffing plan to help change that investment into preventative maintenance. You can see the blue on the left, the blue bars on the left-hand side are their O&M staff. The orange bars are engineering staff to help on their CIP. And then the gray bars are staff related to their pure water program. In that first biennium, the total amount of staff is 100. They've proposed 105 staffing positions, and that slowly degrades in the future bienniums. 82% of that 105 is related to field staff. Those are your people either out in the desert or over in positions that would help support their preventative maintenance programs. This has been an area of quite a bit of discussion at the Metropolitan Board level, but this is also related to the bar chart off on the right-hand side, which is Metropolitan CIP expenditures. You can see the green is their baseline CIP. The blue is that additional Pure Water Southern California project. As Metropolitan has noted, they're not keeping up with the need for current investment in their system. Kind of industry standards are investing about 1% into your overall R&R programs. Metropolitan's beneath that. So over a couple different future budget cycles, they plan on significantly investing in their CIP program. You can see in those outer years, they exceed over $1 billion over the biennium. And the staff on the left-hand side are to help implement this CIP program as they've proposed. So this just gives an idea of kind of context for why they're proposing some of the things that they are. Additionally, when you look at the Pure Water program, even though in the current biennium, you're not seeing a huge budgetary expenditure, you can see in the next two bienniums, you start to expend quite a bit of capital dollars related to a 45 MGD Pure Water project, starting really outside of this next decision point. The next area of major focus at the Metropolitan Board is looking at the ad valorem property tax. This is a property tax that Metropolitan has the ability to collect. It is applied to every property within the Metropolitan service area. That property tax currently is set at 0.007%, which means that a home with an assessed value of $1 million pays about $70 per year to Metropolitan under the property tax. What the property tax goes to is pay for existing costs on the state water project system. And that is all property tax at Metropolitan can go to fund. Currently, they're collecting $425 million per year as part of their property tax. Their state water project fixed costs are $570 million per year. So you can see there's a little bit of room for Metropolitan to increase revenues associated with AV to offset their state water project costs. I do think it's important to point out that as part of their current budget, they did double the property tax. Property tax used to be 0.0035%. They went from 0.0035% to 0.007%, effectively making, doubling their revenues related to property tax. The chart off on the right-hand side shows what those different property tax levels that Metropolitan could get to and what the corresponding rate increase would be. So currently at the 0.007%, the rate increase is 9.5%. If they were to max out their property tax revenues at the 0.0105%, that would bring their corresponding rate increase down to 5.5% per year. Just to give an idea of full context of what they're looking at. So that culminates in some big decision points that the board is going to have to make. This chart here just shows the different budget drivers that make up that 9.5%, and then some of the options that the board is considering. So you can see on the AV property tax, there's 4 different options that the board is looking at. On conservation funding, they're looking at either maintaining conservation at its current level or just reducing that to their minimum amount needed to match their grant funds. On staffing levels in their CIP, and the board is really considering whether to move forward with a staff proposal or do something less than. And then on the 45 MGD Pure Water project, the question is, do they include it at the request from staff? Do they only do the grant funded portion, or do they remove that project from the budget altogether? And then on Delta Conveyance project funding, there's a discussion about maintaining that $116 million in the budget versus removing it or doing, something different than that. With that, that concludes my presentation and would be happy to answer any questions. I will just close it out by saying that Metropolitan does plan on bringing their budget to their board in April for adoption, and that would bring this process to a close. So happy to answer any questions.
Seeing no one in the queue, any Met delegates at this point have anything else to add beyond what's in their materials already? Hearing from no one, we'll move forward to to the Colorado River Board representative, Vice Chairman Daffrey. Have any comments? All right. There are no information items on the agenda. There are no closed session items. We are adjourned.
I'll do A&F in 5 minutes.
All right. Let's go ahead and get started. For once, we're not saying good morning, but it was a great morning, except for the fall, but it's all good. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the A&F committee meeting for Thursday, March 19th, 2026. I am Chair Abdullahi, and this meeting is called to order. I believe Director Quaylen might be participating remotely. Not yet. All right, we'll come back. Other than that, Nicole, will you please call the roll?
Chair Abdullahi.
Present.
Vice Chair Kirschbaum. Here. Directors Acosta.
Here.
Douglas. Here. Hilliker. Here. Morrison. Norman.
Here.
Quaylen. Roback. Sanchez. Serrano.
Here.
Whitburn.
Here.
Williams. Chair Abdullahi, you have a quorum of the committee.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole. As we discuss the items on the agenda, I will be calling on directors who push their speaker button. Please limit your comments to matters not already addressed and state all your points when you have a chance to speak so we can move through our agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda?
There are none.
At this time, I'd like to ask if there are any public speakers wishing to comment on any item listed on the A&F committee agenda.
We have two. Calling on public comment for matters on the A&F agenda or within the jurisdiction of the committee. You have 3 minutes to make your comments. First speaker, last name Hosler.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Heisler. I'm an asset manager at Liberty Station. Hopefully many of you have been there. Stone Brewing Company, Vaughn's, Trader Joe's. A lot of the properties that we own and operate down there are on ground leases with the former redevelopment agency with the city of San Diego. I'm speaking today. First, I'd like to thank you for all serving on this board. It's an important function for our society, so I appreciate that. But I'm speaking in opposition to your consent item 121. Has a compensation agreement proposed by the city of San Diego regarding the former Naval Training Center, NTC, which is now known as Liberty Station. This consent item is based upon an appraisal that was recently conducted by the city of San Diego, as recent as November of 25. But read closely, the date of value is 15 years ago. 15 years ago. January 1st, 2011. The city was supposed to compensate you over a decade ago for this property. They've tendered an offer of their holdings of these ground leases that could be 7 times less than property value today. We ask you not to approve this consent item. Let's take an analogy. You have a property you own and you've invested in. You have a property manager who's the city of San Diego. They're also your partner. You need to be compensated fair market value for that property in today's valuations. Your property manager and partner, the city of San Diego, wants the property. Your property manager has an offer on these properties or some of these properties that reflect today's market value that is 7 times what they're offering you today in some of the properties. I have FedExed those offers to you, to some of the board members. I'd like to submit it for the record if I'm allowed to. Your property manager is not going to offer serious consideration to this offer. They don't want to pay current market value. They want to pay 1/7 of what market value is today, potentially. So your property manager has an offer to you in this compensation agreement with a quote unquote tongue in cheek, so to speak. They will pay you today for these properties for what they were worth 15 years ago. With all due respect to the board and all due respect to the staff, this is a bad deal for you. Although the amount is not very much,
Your time is up. Thank you for your
still
comments.
not the right thing to do. Thank you.
Next speaker, last name Adams. You may begin now.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members of the Administrative and Finance Committee. My name is Steve Adams, and I am one of the, I work for the principal of the Seligman Properties at Liberty Station, and I'm urging you to vote no on item 1, number 2, number 1. I have no opposition to items, parts 2 and 3. The amount that the city is offering the water board right now, the 2,742 is 7 times less than what we have offered the city of San Diego, who is the property manager. We tried to engage them. We sent them the offer, and we don't even hear back from them. The majority of these funds actually goes to the school districts, and we feel they're getting shortchanged. We wanted to make this a win-win situation for all the stakeholders, which the San Diego County Water Authority is one of them, and for us to improve these lands and to help the public. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. That concludes our in-person requests. If there are public speakers online, please raise your hand through the Zoom app or press *9 if listening by phone. I see none.
All right, thank you, Nicole. I have no chair's report, but we do have few directors' comments. Secretary Costa.
Thank you. Actually, I had a question. If we could get staff to respond to the fair market question and the appraisal of that property value, that would be helpful at Liberty Station. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Chris Wojcik, the controller in the finance department. And these are, again, compensation agreements that come from agencies, cities within the county, and where the water authority is a party to one of the agreements, in that we receive the proceeds. We're not owners of the locations themselves. We're just asked to approve of the transfer of these properties to within the agencies. And so that really is the limit of what our involvement is. We can either approve or disapprove of them. I can say that what we do when we receive these agreements, we read them, we do look at the appraisals, we see, make sure that they include the appropriate analysis that was done. And then we look at what our share of the proceeds are with respect to how the county assessor's office determines what we were to receive. And then we present them to the board for approval. We rely on what the agreements state. And in this particular case for these 3, the city has said that they wish to develop these properties themselves. So that's why they are not put out for sale. And our involvement, we don't really have much more involvement beyond that. There are 14 other parties that are involved in signing these. And I assume if any one of them disagrees, it would have to go back to the city, in which potentially the agreement could be modified. But we really don't have that much involvement other than receiving them and presenting them to the board for approval.
Thank you. Chair, may I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, real quick, Director Quaylen is participating remotely from a publicly accessible location included in the agenda, and he has posted the agenda at that location. So thus votes will be taken today, will be a roll call vote. And with that, feel free, Secretary Costa.
Thank you. So I'm also wondering about the 2011 data valuation. Is that typical? I mean, that was a long time ago. And as we know, property values have really changed since 2011.
Yes, this is something that was a law that was passed in the state legislature, and that is the direction that we follow. I do know the General Counsel's office has looked at these and other ones involving the city, and it comes down to if there's a disagreement in price determining the value for the properties, and the parties cannot agree, the default is to go back to look at the valuation of the property at 2000, what it would have been in 2011. And that is where we are today. That's the value that what these agreements are based on for all 3 of the properties.
And we did a couple of these, I suppose about a year ago, and it was the exact same process. So they relied on the evaluation that was done when the property was assigned to the redevelopment agency. And we, as a very small percentage of refund proceeds, have adopted what the other agencies have adopted.
Thank you. I guess what I'm trying to understand is, are we required to move forward with this because of the redevelopment agency being dissolved, or is there any chance to reevaluate the property, reappraise, considering that it was 15 years ago, so long ago? And as we all know, property values have really increased. So I'm just kind of wondering what the process is. I'm sure this happens all over the state of California. So I'm trying to understand. I just don't have enough information here.
Right, yes. And again, we're not the primary party here. We are a recipient. The board can elect not to approve of this agreement, in which case we'd relay that back to the city and then wait for further how the city would respond after that.
Thank you.
All right, Director Madaffer.
Well, I guess I'm the old man in the room here. I was on the San Diego City Council when we approved the Naval Training Center transition. And we never intended that property, which then became Liberty Station, to be taken by a private developer. It was to be the future Balboa Park. It still is. And while I respect the private sector wanting to use this as a wedge issue, I respectfully disagree. I don't care if the value is 2011 or 2026. The reality is this needs to stay in the public's hands, and that's why the city is requesting it. I'm not a member of this committee, but I would strongly urge the board to support this measure. Thank you.
And just to piggyback on that, within the agreement, if there isn't an agreement by the parties to use some other valuation, then 2011 is the date. And so that's part of this legal process to bring the proceeds back.
Chair Serrano.
Thank you. To piggyback on what Director Madaffer said, I just want to be very clear with this board. It's been reported in the media that there are folks who are looking for the city of San Diego to sell parts, if not all, of Liberty Station. The city of San Diego is not interested in doing that at this point, and certainly not with what's valued here. But I would just say that the city of San Diego does want to move forward with the item today, and we would look to this board to support it moving forward. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other directors' comments? All right, seeing Director Molina.
I'm not on this committee, but as a representative of the district that represents Liberty Station, I would concur with my San Diego City colleagues as well.
Thank you for your comments. All right, seeing no other questions or comments, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Madam Chair, I'll move the consent calendar.
All right, and do I have a second? Second by Kirschbaum and motion by Chair Serrano. Nicole, will you please call the roll?
Chair Abdullahi?
Yes.
Vice Chair Rant? Vice Chair Kirschbaum?
Yes.
Directors Acosta?
Yes.
Douglas?
Yes.
Hilliker? Morrison is absent. Norman?
Yes.
Quaylen?
Yes.
Roback? Sanchez is absent. Serrano?
Yes.
Whitburn?
Let me ask the attorney, the general counsel, if I could. I voted on this at city council. Do I need to not vote on it here, or can I vote on it here?
That interest would be remote. Let's have you recuse. I didn't realize you voted on it.
Okay, I'll recuse from the item.
Thank you.
Items on the consent calendar pass.
Thank you. And then there are two additional items on the consent calendar. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved. Acosta.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second, Kirschbaum.
Thank you. Nicole, can you please call the roll for the remaining two items on the consent calendar?
Chair Abdullahi?
Yes.
Vice Chair Rant?
Yes.
Vice Chair Kirschbaum?
Yes.
Directors Acosta?
Yes.
Douglas?
Yes.
Hilliker?
Yes.
Norman?
Yes.
Yes.
Roback? Whitburn?
Yes.
Sorry, Serrano?
Yes.
The remaining items on the consent calendar pass.
Thank you, Nicole. We have two presentation items today. First up is the presentation on the preliminary calendar year 2027 rates and charges. And before I turn it over to Good News Pierce and his presentation, I would like to start by mentioning that we are approaching the development of calendar year 2027 rates and charges a little bit differently this year. Staff will not be presenting to the board any forecasted rates and charges or a high-low effective rate increase until the May board meeting. The reason is that there are several major components of the rate development that remain in flux, including multiple ongoing water deal negotiations and the need to incorporate MEDS rates and charges, which have not been adopted yet. So deferring the release of the Water Authority's potential calendar year 2027 rates and charges ensures that the board and the public receive fully vetted recommendations without any confusion. At this time, staff will only be sharing current conditions and key elements to the development of the rates and charges, and we will get an update next month, but any rate recommendations will not be provided until the May board meeting. With that, I will excitedly turn it over to Pierce.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair Abdullahi.
Pleasure to be here this afternoon. Loved the morning festivities that we had in that signing. And so certainly and hopefully more to come. For calendar 27 rates and charges, this is something we do annually. There are many in this room that have been part of our annual rate setting season year after year after year. There are some board members here that are also new. So wanting to kind of run through, and for those that may be listening, what are the parameters for setting rates? We do it each and every year, but how do we get to kind of the landing spot? And the first is we have a financial goal. We want to maintain a healthy organization here, that we have the ability to provide water, that we are able to fund the infrastructure that we need, the operational staff that we have. And by doing so, we can also borrow money at the lowest rate possible. So that's the financial goal that we have. We also want that the rates that we recover to be as low as possible and reflective of the service that's being provided. If you're taking treated water, we want to recover that from treated users. If we're using reliable supplies, we want those to be allocated to reliable water users. And so we want that to be reflected and ultimately have affordable rates. And the final piece of this is the operational goal. At the end of the day, we want to be able to deliver clean, safe, reliable water. And the ability to do that relies first with having the finances to do so. All of this, as we do an annual rate setting process, is a cost of service review. This is compliance from a third-party consultant that looks at what we've done, look at the recommendations, ensures that they are being in compliance with applications of the rate methodology, adherence to the board's policies themselves, and any new regulatory or legal requirements. Now, while we set rates every year, your agency probably sets rates every 3, maybe 5 years. The rate development process itself is going to mirror what you have at your home agency. And that starts with the revenue requirements analysis. This is how much revenue do we need to bring in from rates to pay for the water, to pay for the treatment, to pay for the operators, to ensure that we have reserves and policies in place. How much do we need to collect from rates after we've collected our property tax dollars, as we've collected capacity fees? How much is left over that needs to be recovered? And this amount is going to change annually based on inflation, debt, sales and water purchases primarily. Then we have our functional allocations. So now we know how the costs are being incurred. We want to split those costs into functional services. And so our costs very clearly go into a supply bucket, a treatment bucket, transportation bucket, and so forth. And that allocation, that process of our review is going to be relatively stable year to year. So there's not going to be much changes there behind, the curtain, because structurally, everything at the authority is staying the same. Finally, we get to the water rates and charges themselves. These are the rates based on how much we're going to sell. What does the rate need to be in order to collect that revenue requirement? The rate design itself is relatively stable, but there may be some tweaks here and there to adjust for board recommendations and changes. But the rates themselves will change annually based on that annual revenue requirement number. One of the big things for the revenue requirements that impacts us is external factors. And the biggest has historically been Metropolitan. Metropolitan, as you've heard from the committee before, has large increases that are being proposed at 9.5% in both fiscal 27 and fiscal 28. What that translates to a rate standpoint is a 10.6% increase on the untreated rate. The good news is we're not really forecasted to buy much, if any, water from Metropolitan. So that 10.6% increase doesn't really directly impact us or our bottom line this year, as we have our reliable supplies. One thing that you will see is they've changed, much like we did with our transportation rate a few years ago. Metropolitan is implementing a 30% fixed charge for treatment. So rather than being 100% volumetric, they're now collecting 30% or up to 30% of their treatment charge based on fixed charges. They have 3 separate treatment rates that were adopted or are going to be adopted in this design. each having a slightly different component in terms of use case, but that's going to be an impact. So you'll see the volumetric rate decline quite significantly this year from Metropolitan, but it's being shifted to a fixed basis. Met's two fixed charges that they do have are going up 26% and 23% respectively for calendar 27. That's the forecast we have right now. Those are direct pass-throughs to the member agencies. So we get the direct cost from Metropolitan, and then no adders, no administrative fees, nothing like that. We directly allocate it back to the member agencies. And we look to do the same thing with the treatment rate. The good news in all of this too, and you've heard much of this with the settlement agreement, is we have a fixed exchange rate. That exchange rate this year is going up 0. So we are keeping the exact rate that was in place for calendar 26. That rate will be in place for calendar 27. As this is the kickoff, the overview for the initial rate setting season, wanting to kind of draw your attention to a couple rate component transformations or considerations that will be discussed throughout this season. First is PSAR, so our permanent special ag water rate. The board last fall adopted a rate that could be that this board could directly allocate non-rate revenue, so in this case, property tax revenue, to provide a discount to the PSAR customers that's above and beyond what was strictly defined as the cost of service. Since we're no longer buying Met water, we had to look at different ways to being able to provide that, and property tax was the option there. So this will be year one of us using that approach that was adopted by the board last fall. Transportation, when this was adopted a couple years ago, it was recommended from the member agency manager work group and the self-defined subcommittee there, that the transportation moving to a fixed charge was a good idea, but let's not do it all in one fell swoop. There was a 3-year phase-in that was recommended. And so this would be the third and final year. So the first year was 0 to 40, second year was 40 to 50%. And this year we would look to shift that up to a 60% fixed charge. So that final 10% increment, the 40% remaining would be on a volumetric basis. I mentioned Metropolitan's treatment pass-through, so that's something that we're going to look to do. So coming off of a volumetric rate, and this would be baked into kind of the fixed charge allocations that are allocated directly to the member agencies. We've heard this morning, and we have continued ongoing conversations about third-party water deals, deliveries and exchanges there. So we're looking to have more information as we get closer to adoption here in June. And then the final piece here that does relate back to Metropolitan is the supply reliability charge. If you may be familiar with that methodology, it's the price differential between our reliable supplies being desal and IID against the Metropolitan untreated rate. Metropolitan, since they're forecasting a near double-digit increase, that's exceeding the increases that we're seeing on desal and IID. So that price differential is going to shrink. And when that price differential shrinks, the supply reliability charge is going to drop. And so right now, that drop looks to be about 8-9% on the supply reliability charge, or about $4 or $5 million. So our fixed revenues will drop by about $5 million, but that $5 million, because we're revenue neutral, there's no longer that deduct from the M&I supply rate. So that is now going on to this, that $5 million will just shift to the M&I supply rate. So there's just going to be a little bit of kind of mechanics that when you see why are some rates going up, some rates going down, that's something to just draw your attention to. And that's something that we expect to see in the future as well, because Metropolitan's forecasting near double-digit increases for the next 10 years. And so this is something that we expect that Metropolitan to far exceed the inflationary increases we see on desal and IID. As such, this has been flagged, and this is something that is being reviewed with the member agency managers, the general managers. Not that we're looking to make any changes this year, but hopefully looking for by later this year to have a recommendation out of that group for potential implementation in calendar 28. One final piece that doesn't get a lot of attention, but we're able to now do a full review is our capacity charges. We have 2 capacity charges, one for the system, and then those agencies that do get treated delivery from us. There's also a treatment capacity charge. This is a one-time connection fee. So when you have a new development or you upsize your meter, there's a capacity fee associated with that. It's been some time since we've been able to do a full review, but now with the completion of the 2025 facilities master plan, we're able to do a full under the hood look of all of the assets, the capital, and using that to do a full review of this rather than just having them escalate based on the engineering news record cost construction index. If you haven't noticed, the weather's been warm. Water sales, I'm sure at your agencies, are also going up. So that is good news from a water retailer's perspective. We will have to clearly see how the rest of the season shakes out, but this is something that we will continue to monitor because the more water we're able to sell now, that just means we're in a different financial position by the time we ultimately set rates and look to the future. So again, we'll be back here in April to give a quick update on a member agency survey in terms of water sales that was performed by Water Resources. We'll provide what your member agencies are telling us in terms of purchases. We'll provide a quick financial update. And then in May, we'll look to set the public hearing, have a draft of the cost of service reports and staff recommended rates and charges there for adoption in the public hearing in June. Once that's all settled with all the new information we have in terms of the rates that will be adopted, any water deals that have been announced by that time, we will look to do an addendum to the long-range financing plan this fall. So all of that would be fully updated and reflective of the proposed debt issue that we also have later this fall. So with that, that concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Pierce. Are there any questions or comments? Director Freehoff?
All right, thank you. I am not on your committee. Thank you for the presentation. So you mentioned in May, we will see numbers in regards to rates. And I know we're not discussing it today, but we will have some extra funds coming in. And when will we have that discussion is my question. Is that going to obviously have to happen at the April board meeting?
We haven't really developed the different scenarios right now. That's something I think that we still need to work through. It could be that, well, it could be that other things transpire with other transactions. And so I would hate to get out in front of the public and us with having multiple confusing rate scenarios. So once the picture, I think, clears itself up, I would still shoot for May to have all of those different scenarios. If it happens sooner and we have the data, there should be nothing that holds us back from April. It's just sort of uncertain right now.
Okay, so it may come down to May when we actually are putting numbers out there that there'll be scenarios. Is that?
Yeah, maybe.
I guess I'd like the board to make a decision ahead of time on how we plan on utilizing those funds and then coming out with a number.
So what I
That's just my
what I have described to the GMs and the business model working group, I think I've said to many of you that we're going to have just a different options so that, you know, whatever the financial benefit is from these transactions, you know, there's of course going to be one bracketed end, which is complete rate reduction, another, which may be zero rate reduction, pay off debt. So alternatives in between will find themselves as options presented to this board. So
okay, and it's still unclear as to when those options will be available to us, I guess.
May.
Okay. Right. Interesting.
Chair Serrano?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to piggyback off that, you know, I was just asked this question by a member of the media outside, and I shared with him that we would be having this discussion as a board through the rate setting process. I think right now, what I would ask members to start doing is having conversations at your home agency and start prioritizing from the brackets and bookends that the general manager just described so that you can come here understanding what those priorities are going to be. And then that's going to be a holistic board conversation that will continue through the rate setting process. Part of that is, as Dan indicated, we don't know exactly what resources we are in totality going to have for this rate setting process. I mean, like physically in the door. But I think it's just on all of us at this point to, really have our priorities down for what we want to see, where we want to see this applied. And I would ask that we do that in context of short term, but then also long term. But I appreciate the general manager's commitment to having those scenarios in May.
And if I may add, and to manage expectations, if you're alluding to our excess revenue policy that the board just approved, just to be clear, what triggers that is actual excess revenue. So money needs to actually come in the door in order for us to determine that it's excess. So my understanding is we're not going to be receiving checks in advance of May. I'm looking at our CFO and she's nodding her head. So I just want to manage expectations that while the rate setting process will, of course, consider any agreements that are in place at the time of the process, the excess revenue policy requires on actual excess cash in hand on our books. Thank you.
Certainly can't count what we don't have yet. Director Norman, followed by Director Heidemann.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to just clarify, there's a special meeting, April 9th? What is that topic? And could there be another date between then and May that we could focus in on, maybe at a committee level, if not a full board level, to try to step, because things are happening so fast. I just feel like we got to keep in touch on what all these actions are as they're occurring, so we can have a better sense of what we might need to vote on in June.
Absolutely. We were just
May I
discussing
respond?
that.
Yeah, me and Chair Abdullahi were actually having this conversation. I think that the April special board meeting is probably too soon for any kind of new information outside of what we just learned this morning on water transfer transactions. After that date, I think that there may be an opportunity. And I say may because I don't know what I don't know with these deals. We do have a special board meeting calendared on the 14th of May, which would give us some time before the May board meeting. So I think that everyone should maybe keep that on their calendar. And we work towards seeing what kind of information we have. If we have something that is doable and can be presented on the 14th, I think that we consider that.
Thank you. Director Heidemann, followed by Director Madaffer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It occurred to me that I've heard this reference to the work that the member agency general managers are doing with respect to the Water Authority's business model. And I heard it from Dan just a second ago. I know Pierce referenced it. I even heard it from Craig Miller, the GM from Western, and even to Don, who I guess was the one who formed the group in Metropolitan, and the way they described it as it was transformational. So I just want to put a plug in that the GMs are working on these very topics and issues. And there's a lot of work that has gone into it and that is still forthcoming. So I hope that when we get to that point where that report is presented to this board, that we really listen to the advice of our general managers, because they are the experts of our agencies. And so I keep hearing this reference, and I just want to highlight that because it is a lot of work that's transpiring. So thank you.
Director Madaffer.
I'm not a member of the committee, but in listening to this, I think we just need to make sure that member agencies be careful not to try to burn a hole in their pockets based on the agreement passed today and what's going to be coming in the future. This isn't the first we've heard about selling our excess supplies. So it's finally happening, but really every agency needs to temper their exuberance to try to spend those funds. We have long-term debt to pay down. I'm sure that Lisa Marie will talk about that in the future. And just keep in mind, paying down long-term debt equals rate reduction. Thank you.
Director Kirschbaum. Thank you. I totally agree with Director Heidemann that we need to take our member agency advice into account when we're thinking about excess revenue. And the question I have for you, Dan, is will that timing match up? Because I'm hearing from the Vallecito's general manager that they're looking like a year from now having a plan for a new business model, which doesn't align with our rate setting. So
right, I think that that's in general accurate. What I envision is that we we do not try to cram in an excess revenue policy within a 6-week time period, right? And so that's my reference to scenarios that I'm going to be asking Pierce and the finance team, alternatives, if you will, for the first year for 2027. After that, I think to your point, what your general manager described to you is accurate, that we would run that through the GM work group, have frequent touch-ins with this board, have touch-ins with our financial advisors as to what is a really a long-term financial recovery type plan for this agency.
Thank you for that. And I think that should go into our decision-making as a board, is that when we do think about how to handle this excess revenue that we anticipate coming in, that this is sort of just like a temporary plan for the next 9 to 12 months. And so we should think about that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, Pierce or Lisa Marie?
Just in terms of that comment, these are complex agreements. They're 21-year agreements. And so I think just kind of thinking long-term over the life of the agreements in terms of maximizing the value, it's a $100 million net present value to this organization in the next 5 years. That is an amazing tailwind that we have going into this conversation. But everything kind of needs, the checks need to clear, the services need to be provided, the water needs to be delivered, and there are a lot of other changes. And we've certainly heard from this board during, the years of conversations we've had on the long range financing planning, our commercial paper program, that there are still bills to be paid. And so we want to make sure that when we do provide those scenarios, that we're keeping that in mind. And so it's not just going to be a single year, this is what we can do, but we'll continue to provide that roadmap. And as I mentioned, we'll be looking to have that addendum to the long range financing plan. So then when we do have those robust conversations, when we do go into the next 2-year budget cycle where it's a new budget, that we know exactly what we're dealing with, and that we have those full cash flows and those considerations involved for the next 10 years.
Thank you. Any other comments from directors? All right, seeing or hearing none. Finance team, I do not envy you as you crunch those numbers, but I'm fully confident with so many things in flux, the leadership of my colleagues here, the leadership of our executive team and our finance team to get us through the finish line. So we'll get there, folks. Next, I will hand it over to Lisa Marie Harris, our Director of Finance and Treasurer, to present the recommended debt management activities.
Thank you, Chair Abdullahi, as well as Board of Directors, Lisa Marie Harris, Finance Director. So as you all know, we've been talking about this for over a year, that we are going to be entering the market for a new money sale. And just as a reminder, we are out of PAYGO funds and we've been borrowing from the operating fund. So we do need to go to market so that we can start fully funding our CIP. So next slide. So as you all know, you all adopted the long range financing plan, and it does present best practices to the market. I've already gotten great feedback from some of the key stakeholders. They really appreciate that document, and they're already running the numbers and assessing the health of this organization prior to providing us ratings. And just so you know, over the 30-year plan, the 30-year outlook, the plan does anticipate $841 million of long-term debt paid off, and that's outside of any water transfer. So the Water Authority has been on point in making principal payments for its long-term debt. And we also have been managing the short-term debt as well. And again, over that 30-year period, we do plan to pay down $102 million. And that's just with the overall ebb and flow with this organization. Next slide. So just to remind you of the overall portfolio, we have about $2 billion worth of debt. The majority of it is long-term debt. And we also have some short-term variable rate debt. And our annual debt service payment is approximately $156 million. That's 16% of the total budget. And that's well in par with our peers. It's nothing exuberant about our annual debt service payment. It's very normal to have that amount of debt service with the infrastructure-driven organization that we are. And you can look at water infrastructure, you can look at transportation, airports, that we all have large infrastructure programs, and we all have to continue to issue debt to pay for our infrastructure unless we get to a place And maybe with these water deals, Dan, we don't have to issue no more debt. I know he doesn't want me to say that. But next slide. Just to give you the horizon for the Water Authority's debt program over the next several years, we will be, again, we're going to issue new money debt, but based on the current outlook, we may not have to issue bonds until 2031. That's what the plan, the long-range plan states. Again, we have good cash flow coming in. Again, outside of the water deals, the long-range plan did not assume any water deals. And so even though we are a very infrastructure-driven organization, we also have a strong PAYGO program. And the last time we issued debt was 5 years ago. And before that, it was 10 years ago. We were really in a capital intensive time period from 1990 to 2020. And outside of that, we haven't been issuing a lot of debt. So I know you all talk about we have all this debt, but it is relatively small in comparison to the overall infrastructure that we manage. And the profile for how we've been paying down debt has always been quite reasonable. We are very much respected in the marketplace. They really appreciate your leadership in how we manage the overall debt program. So I just want to congratulate you, and don't feel like you're being you're being overly exuberant on not paying down debt. You guys are doing a great job, believe me. Next slide. This is just to show you that you did adopt a moderate risk CIP program. We were a more aggressive on our CIP, which means that we're paying less into our infrastructure. So it's about $100 million a year. And again, given that infrastructure of $100 million a year with the current rate setting process, we feel that we're going to be able to rely on this one debt issuance in 2080 of 285, and we won't have to issue bonds again until 2031. But that could be further extended with your decision-making on the excess policy. So you might, in addition to just paying down debt, you also might have an option of deferring when we issue new money. Maybe we won't have to issue new money for another 10 years. So that's an option too. So when we're thinking about paying down debt, I think we need to think about it holistically, because if, let's say, our current outstanding debt is 4.3%, which it is, if the new money issuance costs are 5 or 6%, then maybe we want to extend when we pay down debt, issue new money versus paying down existing debt. So that's why we really need to think holistically, as well as what our investment returns are going to be. So I'd want to look at current outstanding debt costs, the cost of issuing new money, what is the interest income that we can receive with the cash, along with the rate setting process. So we really need to think holistically, and I'm just encouraging and just planting these seeds for you as you go to your member agencies to process all these financial decisions. Next slide. So again, these key management activities include 1, issuing a new money, 2, to restructure some of the commercial paper program, and 2, a longer term debt portfolio, and then refunding existing debt. We do have opportunities, depending on the market conditions, that we can refund some existing debt for a lower interest rate. Next slide. So the first key activity is to issue new bonds up to 285. That number can change up until we issue bonds. So we might decide to lower that amount based on water transfer numbers, but I'm asking for approval up to 285. But again, we can lower that number at any point in time up until the day of sales. And that anticipates a debt service appropriated in 26-27 budget. The funds, again, are assuming a moderate CIP and a portion of, and just to remind you again that we have been borrowing from our operating fund. And so we do need to issue bonds just to pay ourselves back. Next slide. The second item is to pay down some more commercial paper. And I know there's been confusion about we've never paid down commercial paper, but as you can see, dating back in 2010, we had a balance of 460. And incrementally, we have been paying down commercial paper to 228. So that's the current amount. And then I want to go to a hip pocket slide, because there was a question about, well, how much interest have we paid to date on commercial paper? And that amount is $43.5 million. But the question really is, what amount would have paid if we had issued long-term debt? Based on the work that our financial advisors conducted for me last night, the effective rate that we would have paid would have been $156 million. So you can see The commercial paper program, which is why we've utilized it, we've been able to access the short end of the yield curve, which is less than 1% in some years. And not only did we not have to pay the long-term higher fixed income rate, I was able to use our cash and get return on our investments north of 3%. So not only did we save approximately $113 million from not issuing long-term bonds, I also generated interest income by investing that cash to create an income to offset rates and charges. So again, it's a holistic approach. It's not just some one silo thought process. We really try to evaluate the maximum and optimum use of our cash using short-term, using long-term, but then also generating interest income, which does generate savings to offset rates and charges. Next slide. So again, we're going to look at, in working with our financial advisors, we are going to restructure one series of the outstanding commercial paper program. It's $98 million, and we're going to structure it into a principal and interest tool, and that'll be a part of the debt activities when we go to market. Next slide. So the last item is the debt refunding. Whenever we go to market, we try to see if there's any refunding opportunities. We don't just go to market just to go to refunding, just to do a refunding because it's still very expensive, but I can dovetail this refunding with the new money issuance. So we're looking at approximately saving $334 million, which is not that much, $3.34 million, but it's still something as we're going to look at that. We do have some Build America bonds that are taxable bonds. But based on the current market conditions, we might be able to refund half of that. But according to my financial advisor, they were going to market on some Build America bonds and it got pulled because the market just moved away. So we're going to continue. I am asking approval to refund the Build America bonds just to give me that flexibility that if all goes well, we'll be able to have savings on that bond transaction as well. Next slide. This is just to remind you of our strong ratings. And because of the long-range financial plan that was adopted, we're going to be positioned very well to negotiate even better ratings. And that's my goal. As you all know, we're still on negative outlook with Standard & Poor's. But with our improvement in our financial position, along with the strong methodology and all the metrics that we adopted, I should be able to, or we should be able to go to market and get that negative outlook removed. So that's one of my number one priorities. Next slide. So next steps is to, again, we're going to continue to monitor the debt management activities. We're going to come back in July to ask for the official board resolutions. And then you'll also be asked to approve all our market disclosure documents. I know our disclosure council presented that information last month. So it's the official offering document. And so we will be asking you guys to review that as well, review and approve it. Next slide. So the recommendation is to authorize staff to schedule debt management activities, the issuance of a new senior lien water revenue bond to fund capital improvement, structuring our Series 11 commercial paper program, and refunding of any select senior lien bonds, as well as authorize the financial team that's going to help us take these deals to market. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Lisa Marie. I will be moving to questions and comments from directors. Vice Chair Arendt.
Lisa Marie, I'm encouraged that we are on top of it as usual from our finance department and looking for opportunities to restructure debt and so forth. One of the things I am interested in when we talk about the commercial paper program is the debt in that program segmented so that as we pay it down, we know what the portions of that debt, how old are they? And how much interest has been paid, say, if you segment it into an annual basis. So if you pay it down $10 million, where does that go? Does that go to the debt that was incurred 5 years ago or 6 years ago? So it's segmented so that we can track, how long is that debt been there? What's the interest we paid on it? And then with future opportunities, I'm not going to be specific about what they are. I really think that handling our debt and reducing our debt, it may not produce short-term savings, but it'll produce long-term savings. So any opportunity we get for refinancing or restructuring debt, will be really important. So I was wondering, do you have an answer for my question?
Sure, we do monitor and evaluate our commercial paper program. Again, we have paid down 43 million of that, and the staff has actually done some research to make sure that the projects, the useful life are fully amortized properly. So we do manage that. And again, we're halfway there with paying the whole thing off. Mhm.
All right, Vice Chair Kirschbaum.
Thank you, Lisa Marie, for that presentation. So I was the one that asked about the total interest on the commercial paper. And that question came actually from a constituent that reached out to me and was concerned about the short-term debt. I really appreciate this presentation. And I think that that graph was a great way to show actually how much money it's saved the agency over time. And I think if you're looking at just the commercial paper by itself, it can be like, wait, why are we doing this? Why are we doing interest only for so long? But as you stated, it's a holistic approach to the total debt. And I appreciate Director Arandt's comment about like, let's look at how much debt this is and how it's traveling. But I think you can look at it another way, in that we have a total amount of debt at one time, and how much are we paying on that? And so I appreciate your approach, and it's clearly saved the agency money over time. So thank you for that. And with that, I move to approve the motion.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion by Vice Chair Kirschbaum and a second by Chair Serrano. And we have another speaker on the queue, Director Paul.
I'm not a member of this committee, so thank you for the opportunity to speak. So for the last year or so, I've been telling you that I'm not going to vote for more bond funding. And I want to tell you that you've changed my mind. It's not your fault that spending's out of control. And I think you're doing a great job of managing debt. Thank you.
We are very blessed to have you, Lisa Marie, and the entire staff in the finance team. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Nicole, will you please call the roll?
Chair Abdullahi?
Yes.
Vice Chair Arant?
Yes.
Vice Chair Kirschbaum?
Yes.
Directors Acosta?
Yes.
Douglas?
Yes.
Hilliker?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Norman?
Yes.
Quaylen?
Yes.
Robeck? Serrano?
Yes.
Whitburn?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Nicole. And we have another comment by Vice Chair Arant.
Yes, I'm trust that Director Paul found out that the 285 million, part of it will go to reline the crossover pipeline, which supplies the city of Escondido. Thank you.
All right, so we have two information items on the agenda. There are no closed session items, no further business. So the ANF committee now is adjourned. LPO is up in the next 5 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please take your seats. Good afternoon and welcome to the Legislative and Public Outreach Committee meeting for Thursday, March 19th, 2026. I am Chair Valentin Macedo, and this meeting is now called to order. Director Quaylen is participating remotely from the publicly accessible location included on the agenda, and he has posted the agenda at that location. Votes today will be taken by roll call vote. Media, will you please call the roll?
Chair Macedo,
Present.
Vice Chair Acosta. Here. Ray, Vice Chair Ray. Buckowitz. Here. Director Hilliker. Here. Katz.
Here.
Lines. Here. Madaffer. Here. Molina. Morrison.
Here.
Norman.
Here.
Quaylen.
Here.
Whitburn.
Here.
Williams. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. As we discuss the items on the agenda, I will be calling on directors who push their speaker button. Please limit your comments to matters not already addressed and state your points when you have the chance to speak so we can move through our agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask if there are any public speakers.
This is for public comment on the items on the Legislation and Public Outreach Committee agenda or under the jurisdiction of the Legislation and Public Outreach Committee. If there are public speakers in the Zoom waiting room, please raise your hand through the Zoom app or press *9 if listening by phone. I see no speakers.
Okay, thank you. I'll move into the chair's report. I'd like to start with a note of appreciation to our public affairs team for the significant media outreach related to the MOU. Thank you. And over the past few weeks, we've seen a wave of stories locally and beyond related to the work of this board and the innovative steps we are taking to balance affordability and reliability. And those are the result of the behind the scenes efforts by our staff to support media interest. In addition, the team coordinated today's press conference. I'm also pleased to announce that Public Affairs launched a TikTok, which is a direct response to some of the board members' comments in our last meeting. And we're also on the verge of releasing a new newsletter from our general manager. We look forward to hearing more about those innovative initiatives in the coming months. And with that, that concludes my chair's report. Are there any comments from directors?
Will you send out the copies of our general manager doing TikTok?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move through our agenda. Oh, Director Flessie, sorry.
Thank you. I'm not on this committee, so I appreciate the ability to comment. And I am one of the board members that requested the TikTok, so I'm super excited that you guys are on TikTok, and I'm super excited to see our general manager and other folks doing the TikTok. Especially today at our presentation. That'd be a wonderful thing to put together and put on TikTok. Thank you. I appreciate it.
We could do a dance together, Director Flessie.
Game, as long as I have partners and I'm not by myself.
Thank you, Director. With that, we'll move. Oh, Director Whitburn.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to second the appreciation for the communications team. We've been talking here for a long time and telling people that, water sales were coming. And I just think it's tremendously helpful that everybody is seeing that is coming to fruition. Really helps give credibility to what we've been telling people. So I just also want to say how thankful I am for that. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move right through our agenda. We'll go ahead and move into our consent calendar. We have one item on the consent calendar this month to adopt positions on various legislation. Adopt position of oppose on HR 7078, the equal access to the Colorado River. This is a carryover from last month. Adopt a position of support on S 3923, the Weather Research and Forecasting Innovation Reauthorization Act. Adopt a position of support on AB 2180, which is Prop 218 Omnibus Implementation Act, Proportional Cost of Service. And then we have adoption of position of oppose unless amended on AB 2013, Fire Risk Areas, Water Suppliers, Emergency Preparedness Plan, and then adopt a position of support on 1153, Disastrous Preparedness, Urban Retail Water Suppliers, and Public Water Systems, Wildlife. With that, do I have a motion to pass the consent calendar?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Director Katz and a second by Secretary Acosta. With that, Nydia, please call the roll.
Chair Macedo,
Aye.
Vice Chair Acosta,
Yes.
Ray is absent. Buckowitz. Yes. Hilliker,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Lines,
Yes.
Madaffer,
Yes.
Molina, Morrison,
Yes.
Norman,
Yes.
Quaylen,
Yes.
Whitburn,
Yes.
and Williams is absent. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Let's move right into our action, discussion, and presentation items. First up, we have our Government Relations Manager, Megan Quarles, who will provide a government relations update, followed by a presentation from our federal lobbyist, Omite. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm excited to announce some things that are happening right now in the federal and state government. It's not as exciting as TikTok, but I'll do my best. Last month, Daniel and I attended the DC conference for Aqua, and it was really great timing to be there while the board was in the process of approving that MOU, because we were able to go to offices and brag about all the great things that we're doing here. But we really do have that support from our representatives. We also did a big outreach effort to all of our state elected officials to let them know what we're doing, and we'll be doing that again after today's actions. So it's important for us to continue to really show them. We've been talking with those elected officials for a long time also on all of our different plans and what we're looking for, and to continue to have their support if we need it in the future, and on everything. So just wanted to let you all know that. We also while we were there, we were able to talk about some other emerging issues like golden mussels. It's something that's affecting all of us. And so there's definitely some legislative pushes on that. We're looking at through some authorizations that maybe they'll add golden mussels as one of the mussels that can get funding for we're looking to prevent that. Following those meetings that we had while we were in DC, we also had 2 meetings this week with the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee staffers to talk about the MOU. And then one of the staffers actually kept talking to us about the post-2026 guidelines. And luckily, Mina was in on that meeting. And so she was able to provide some insight, but they were looking for just advice as Congress is discussing if they're going to try and, have hearings or weigh in at all. But those meetings were very good, just to make sure that the committee staff's aware also of what's going on. Moving on to some Sacramento updates. Obviously, you had a lot of bills in the packet this month. I think you're going to have quite a bit more next month too. But I want to highlight a few. There is a low-income water rate assistance bill that is still a spot bill at this point in time. It's SB 1125. It looks like it's going to mirror the bill that we talked about a lot last year, SB 350, but it will incorporate all of the updates that CMUA was requesting. So all of the amendments that CMUA requested, but it also bifurcates the funding part of it. So there is no funding aspect in this bill. So it would just be the policy, kind of putting the policy together, and then there would have to be a separate effort for the funding. So once that bill's amended, then I will bring it and discuss. I've been talking to the member agencies, but at this point, it still is just in spot bill form. There's also a few different bills that the state water contractors are supporting and sponsoring that I'm going to bring next month. SB 872. It's a bill that would provide $300 million annually from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund to support subsidence repairs on the state water project and restoration and enhancement of the Delta levees. The interesting thing on this bill is it is co-sponsored with Restore the Delta. So it has nothing to do with the conveyance. It's people that are on the opposite sides are together supporting to try and get repairs that need to be done. So I will be bringing that back next month. I will say we've had a lot of talks with our lobbyists. It's going to be a tough push to get this through because everybody goes after those greenhouse gas reduction funds and they're asking for a lot of it. So it may get, I think the hope is that it can pass, but the funding amount may end up getting reduced. Another bill that the state water contractors are sponsoring is AB 2215, which would provide a time extension for the state water project's water rights. And so we're going to be evaluating that and bringing that back next month as well. Also wanted to let you know that we've been discussing with our member agency just recently, as of this week, some PFAS issues and some legislative efforts that might need to take place on PFAS. So we're just in the beginning stages working with our member agencies, but I think there's some legislation out there already that maybe we're looking to get some amendments in. So that will be coming back next month. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Devin from our federal affairs team and Kevin and let them give an update on what's happening in DC.
Thank you, Megan. And thank you, committee, for the opportunity to present today. Megan, I think you did a great job kind of summarizing the trip and the.
You want to try that again, Devin?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Megan did a great job summarizing a lot of the discussions that we were having in DC on appropriations, on water transfers, and the future of the Colorado River. I know many of the directors gave a shout out to the communications team. Our team would like to echo that for providing really succinct, clear communications that help the congressional delegation and others in Washington understand the importance and value of the work that you guys are doing. In a way, our job is really kind of the political PR side of things, making sure that the work that you're doing is being promoted and understood by Congress, and having such wonderful communications is really, really helpful. Excuse me. I'll start by saying that over the last several weeks, as we've passed the Colorado River negotiation deadline, we've started to see Congress and others inch towards weighing in more and more. Appreciate the board taking the opposed position to legislation introduced by Congressman Schweikert that would have mandated a certain direction in the negotiations. We are starting to see the Arizona delegation starting to weigh in a more formal way and are preparing the San Diego delegation to make sure that they are fully embracing the Water Authority's perspective on all of this. You know, the hope is that it does not come down to a congressional fight, that it does not come down to a legal fight. But in the event that we are in the trenches, we want to make sure that our delegation is fully briefed up and prepared. And so we've spent the last month working very closely with them to ensure that they're ready to fight if needed. And I am really optimistic that that our delegation is supportive of the work that you're doing and understands that in the Colorado River Basin, the San Diego County Water Authority is the problem solver, is the entity that is essential to any long-term deal. So real kudos to the board and your predecessors for making those investments early. That is being recognized, and we want to make sure that those perspectives are amplified in the weeks to come. Kevin, are you still on?
I am, Devin. You know, I just briefly add to Devin's comments there that the MOU, we obviously recognize that there are some potentially significant tangible benefits to the authority and to its ratepayers, but it's also served to position the authority as one of the very few entities in an increasingly acrimonious situation that is offering productive ways to address the situation, and that's been immensely helpful to us. And so we're grateful. We've actually been excited to go into meetings and talk about the MOU and what it can mean for other water users in the basin. And I think it's been very well received by all parties.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board members? We'll start with Director Katz.
Yeah. Hi, Devin. Mel Katz. It was just in the news that the Central Valley got $540 million from the Department of Interior to basically ramp up infrastructure in the Central Valley. How do they go about getting that? And how do we get on that list?
Yeah, thanks, Director Katz. I'm going to ask Kevin to take the lead on that one, but I'm happy to chime in as well.
Yeah, Director Katz, it's a good question. I can tell you that funding was made available through the Republican reconciliation bill that was passed last July. We were engaged with the delegation, with the Natural Resources Committee as they put together that provision. They worked with us to try to find a means to make it work for the authority or other entities. And because of the nature of the reconciliation bill, we weren't able to do that. And the reason for that is that those conveyance facilities in the Central Valley, particularly in the San Joaquin Valley, are all reclamation facilities that were constructed with reclamation feasibility studies and reclamation involvement, unlike the authority's infrastructure. The authority does have partners who have infrastructure, supply infrastructure that could potentially be eligible for those funds, but the authority itself does not. We certainly recognize that there's a need at the authority to find federal funding for infrastructure, and we're creatively working to do so. Unfortunately, just because of that situation, we weren't able to be eligible for these funds. It is, on the other hand, a bit of a motivation for us to try to identify ways that the authority moving forward can ensure that projects are eligible for federal funds, whether that's working more closely with reclamation or the Army Corps in developing projects or developing maintenance and upgrade projects. We're looking at how to do that, and we've been doing that over the past several months at a bit of an increased pace, I think. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
Great, thank you.
Director, just to summarize, I think this is a federal investment in a federal project is the way to look at it. We did advocate for federal investment in locally owned, locally operated projects. And again, because of the rules around reconciliation, that was not permissible. So, as we encourage the Water Authority to work with Reclamation and the Corps and others. Also, though, recognizing that you don't want to give your infrastructure over to federal agencies for operation, right? You got like local control is important here. So we're trying to walk that fine line.
Thank you. Director Freehoff?
Thank you. I'm not on your committee. Megan, I appreciate your presentation. And on the low income rate assistance program, which I fully support, you said they were going to separate the two efforts. So has there been any activity on the funding aspect, which is probably the most important part?
I have not seen any activity on the funding part.
Okay, that's too bad. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. At this time, I don't see any further questions. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Devin. Thank you, Megan. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move through our agenda. We have no information items, no closed session items, and there's no further business for the Legislative and Public Outreach Committee. So this meeting is now adjourned and water planning in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, welcome to Water and Planning. I know everybody's been excited to have this meeting. You've been waiting on pins and needles, so we'll get after it here. Suzanne, will you please call the roll?
Chair Miller.
Here.
Vice Chair Freehoff. Present. Vice Chair Scalzitti.
Here.
Directors Castaneda, Coates Hedberg. Here. Supervisor Desmond. Directors Douglas. Here. Lines. Here. Macedo.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Molina. Here. Paul.
Yes, present.
Roback and Wall.
Here.
Chair Miller, we have a quorum of the committee.
Thanks, Suzanne. Okay, we all know the protocol on pushing your button if you ask questions. Are there any additions to the agenda?
We have none.
Do we have any speakers?
Calling on public comment for matters on the Water Planning and Environmental Committee agenda or within the jurisdiction of the committee. You have 3 minutes to make your comments. First speaker, Ms. Brown, you may begin now.
I got it. Okay. Hi. Good afternoon again. Courtney Brown. I'm a staff attorney with San Diego Coastkeeper. And I want to comment on the draft urban water management plan that will be discussed today. I want to say that we're really pleased to see significant course correction in demand forecasting. These projections finally reflect decades of genuine conservation progress and the decoupling of population growth from demand, and are meaningfully more realistic than the forecasts that drove our current rates crisis. That said, we hope that today the presentation will maybe clear up some concerns or confusion that we have from the first review. And that relates to the plan's assertion that San Diego has guaranteed sufficient supplies through 2050 under all conditions. First, the plan asserts that San Diego has sufficient supplies through 2050 under all conditions, but key variables don't appear to be quantitatively factored into that claim. For instance, the IID transfer agreement that expires in 2047, it assumes that status quo renewal is guaranteed, or at least it appears to. Also, implementation of post-2026 federal Colorado River guidelines, while uncertain, are moving forward. The plan seems to acknowledge these as future planning uncertainties, yet the reliability tables assume surplus supplies across all scenarios regardless. Also, the plan's climate change scenarios don't appear to account for Colorado River's most plausible worst case outcomes that are happening now. Again, not potential uncertainties. The Bureau of Reclamation's own projections, as you all likely know, show Lake Mead at 37% capacity and falling, just 20 feet above the threshold that triggers mandatory California water contributions. Lake Powell could drop below minimum power pool as soon as December 2026 this year. So it's unclear to us why none of this appears to be reflected in the scenario modeling, because a legal right to divert water doesn't conjure water that isn't physically there. Coastkeeper will remain engaged throughout the public review period, and we look forward to hearing staff's presentation that hopefully clears some of these concerns up. Thank you.
Thank you. So in the interest of time, I won't go into my lengthy report. Are there any director comments, vice chair's comments? Okay. We don't have any consent calendar items. We'll go into the action discussion presentation. I'll ask Jeremy Crutchfield from Water Resources Manager will provide some introductory remarks and then present Efren Lopez and Ryan Jensen, the Senior Water Resources Specialist, and they will give an update on the preparation of the Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan. Efren or Jeremy?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Miller. We're just going to jump right in, so Efren will get started. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeremy, and good afternoon, Chair Miller, members of the committee and board. I'm Efren Lopez, and today we're going to provide you an update on the preparation of the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and the Water Shortage Contingency Plan. This effort reflects a significant and coordinated regional planning effort incorporating input from our member agencies. I also want to highlight that the plan was developed in-house by Water Authority staff, the way it's been done traditionally, and that really allowed us to be more responsive and collaborative and closely aligned with our member agencies throughout the process. And so this afternoon, I'm going to walk you through where we are in the process, key updates since the technical review draft, and what to expect as we move towards the public review and towards board adoption. So today's presentation will be organized in 4 parts. I'll begin with a brief update on the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan, and then I'll turn it over to Jeremy, who will walk through several of the demand and supply scenarios that inform the plan. Then next, Ryan will summarize an update on the Water Shortage Contingency Plan, and then I'll return to summarize the public review draft, and finally, I'll close with the remaining schedule and next steps as we move toward board adoption in the spring. The Urban Water Management Plan is required by state law every 5 years for all urban water suppliers in California. For the Water Authority, this is our primary long-range planning document. It guides us on how we evaluate and manage regional water supply reliability. It also evaluates our supply portfolio and reliability under 3 conditions: a normal year, single dry year, and multiple dry years. The plan is organized into 11 chapters and supporting technical appendices. These chapters are structured to move from foundational information to detailed reliability analysis. So the early chapters still focus on regional water demands, demand management, and the Water Authority supply portfolio. And the middle sections focus on our member agency supplies, imported water reliability, and regional coordination and water quality considerations. Then the final chapters, they bring it all together, and it'll focus on long-term reliability analysis, scenario planning, and drought response planning. So together, they really provide a comprehensive evaluation of the region's water supply for the next 25 years. Development of the 2025 UWMP has been underway for about 2 years and really reflects a highly coordinated regional effort. The process began in February of 2024 when the board approved the contract with Hazen and Sawyer to support the demand forecasting. And from there, we initiated a pretty extensive coordination with 22 of our member agencies and regional partners. And throughout 2025, we've been providing regular status updates to the board as we work on the plans. And earlier this year, we did complete a technical review draft. That's technically the first draft, and that was distributed to all the member agencies and staff. And they provided a detailed review and input. And based on that input, we did release the current public draft on March 12th, and that represents a big milestone in our process. The technical review draft, as I said, it was distributed to all member agencies in January. We did receive comments from 13 member agencies. That reflects, the strong regional participation in the planning process. And overall, we did receive comments back in 5 major areas ranging from local water supply projections to conservation savings estimates and maps and tables. And the feedback, it really helped refine the forecast and strengthen the technical analysis included in the public review draft. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy. He's going to walk you through some of those scenarios in more detail.
Good afternoon, Chair Miller, members of the board and committee. As Efren mentioned, a lot of the discussions we had with member agency staff revolved around the long-range demand forecast. During some follow-up one-on-one meetings that we had with a handful of agencies, we were able to identify areas within our regional model that we could make refinements to better align our forecast with their agency forecast. The result of that was making some changes that increased some of our forecast for member agencies and decreased our forecast for others. You can see this in the table on the screen right now, that ultimately we ended up increasing our forecast between 2 and 3% between the 20-year planning period, based on the feedback we got from member agency meetings. The second table represents our parallel process. And what we're doing here is comparing our revised regional demand forecast with the aggregate of our forecast from member agencies. And I'm really happy to report here, as you can see from the screen, we're really in alignment with our member agencies. Now, that doesn't mean all of our member agencies are spot on with our forecast for them, but in aggregate, we're really close, ranging between 0.4% and 1.2%. And in all situations or periods, the Water Authority forecast is below the aggregate of the member agencies. So I want to spend a little bit of time in consideration of the agreements that were the agreement that was approved earlier this morning and potential future exchange agreements that Mina's team is working on. We wanted to spend a little time to talk about our resource mix. And what's up on the screen right now is our current situation. And I'll kind of build through it right now. So starting at the bottom, in gray, we have the member agency's local supply. On top of that, we have the contracted supplies from the Water Resources, Water Authority, QSA, and DSAL. The red dashed line represents that regional demand number that we just talked about on the previous slide. And then on the right, you can see the yellow box, which represents the potential for metropolitan or supply coming out of our storage reserves. Now, that happens to align with the 2047 expiration date of the IID transfer component of the QSA. So if we end up extending that, which we do have the opportunity to do, then that yellow box goes away. But we did want to highlight that here today. Now, if you recall back in November, we introduced this new idea of regional supply flexibility. And I'm going to toggle back and forth on these next couple slides so you can kind of see the relationship. Notice we're not increasing the supply at all. It's just adding a different layer to that supply mix. And that's shown in the light green on top here. And what that represents is our ability to decrease our contracted supplies or the potential for local supplies to come in lower than what we're expecting. It's consists of 3 different components. The first and the largest is 50,000 acre feet of potential exchanges that are allowed through our settlement agreement with Metropolitan. The other areas are the potential for us to turn down the desal plant. And then also we've made an assumption here that local supply development projects in the future may not come online exactly at the time that they're identifying or at the capacity that they're identifying. So we've made an assumption here of the potential lowering of member agency supplies of 20% on new projects after 2030. So I do want to make a point here that doesn't mean that we're changing what the member agencies are telling us. In the Urban Water Management Plan, you'll see that all the verifiable supplies that the member agency told us are recognized to their full capacity in the document. Right here, this is just a planning tool for us to use as we evaluate these exchange and transfer opportunities into the future. Now, on this last one, and I'll go back and forth a couple times here, this now represents actually executing some of these exchange agreements. Obviously, we did one this morning and Mina's team's working on others, but hypothetically, let's put that total at 25,000 acre feet. And the very first thing you notice is that the very top goes down quite a bit. The other part that I notice is on the left-hand side, in the next few years, you'll see a little bit of yellow pop up, and that really gives us an opportunity to utilize some of our storage reserves that we have in the region, which is a benefit to the Water Authority and everything we're trying to do. But the big takeaway from these exchange agreements is if you look between 2025 and 2035, we now have alignment between our regional demand forecast in red and our total supplies coming into the region. That is a really good thing, and it gives us a lot of opportunities to look and see how we can leverage these resources, not only now, but also into the future. So this tool that we have here is really beneficial. Again, it's something that we're going to use internally to help us evaluate future exchange opportunities. And we'll be using this tool well past the adoption of the urban water management plan. Chair Miller, I don't know if we want to pause for questions now or finish the presentation.
Questions?
Sorry, we're being a little disruptive there, but I guess Director Norman and I were just not clear on what the red line is.
So the red line is our long-range demand forecast. So it is the 461,000 to the 470,000. That is our regional demand forecast for our urban water management plan. So it's the demand expectation for the region.
And the upper light green is water that we have in excess of that's a question. The light green or the dark green here, everything above the line is the water that we have in abundance that we can market.
Correct. So everything above the red line here is anticipated surplus. And then the concept of the regional supply flexibility is that uncertainty of our supply and where we might land with the idea of exchanges and other opportunities.
Any other questions?
Okay, with that, I'll bring Ryan Jensen up to talk about the water shortage contingency plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name's Ryan Jensen. I'm a senior water resources specialist, and I led the effort to update the Water Authority's 2025 Water Shortage Contingency Plan. So what is the Water Shortage Contingency Plan? The WSCP is a comprehensive drought planning document that serves as the region's guide for water shortage and drought management. The WSCP incorporates lessons learned from previous drought periods and ensures that the water authorities and its member agencies continue to proactively plan for future supply shortages. The WSCP is reevaluated and updated every 5 years in coordination with the Urban Water Management Plan updates. However, the WSCP is a standalone document and it can be updated at any time if the need arises. So the Water Authority's Board of Directors first approved a drought planning document in 2006. And since then, the plan has been activated 3 times. Supply allocations were implemented during the first 2 activations in 2007 and 2012. And supply allocations were not necessary during the most recent activation of the plan from 2021 to 2023. So in February 2025, I gave an update to the board regarding the WSCP and our plan changes for the 2025 update. Since then, those changes have been incorporated and refined. And as part of the process to update the WSCP, member agencies were given the opportunity to review and comment on the draft plan. And comments from member agencies were incorporated as needed and included in the public review draft published last week. So for the 2025 update, notable changes include the addition of historical drought information and lessons learned from the 2021 to 2023 drought, which are in section 3. And then also revisions to the drought response matrix in section 5, which is shown here on the slide. The purpose of the drought response matrix is to outline the drought response actions that are available to the board at each of the 6 regional water shortage levels. And key revisions to the drought response matrix included the removal of voluntary and mandatory designations for each water shortage level, the separation of carryover storage and emergency storage at levels 1 and 3, respectively, and the use of additional and extraordinary demand reduction measures to distinguish between demand reduction actions during moderate and severe drought conditions. These changes allow for additional flexibility in the selection of drought response levels and to allow for drought response actions that can be tailored to local conditions rather than statewide mandates. This flexibility is important to the Water Authority, given that the state required all water suppliers to activate their WSCPs in 2021, even if there was no water supply shortage in the region, which was the case for the Water Authority and for San Diego County. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Efren to finish off the presentation.
Thank you, Ryan and Jeremy. So again, we are currently in the public review period. It began last week. During this time, both plans will be available for the public to review and provide comments. We are accepting written comments. They can call me and we can take those comments into review. That will remain open until after the public hearing. So the board next month will hold a public hearing where members of the public will have the opportunity to provide testimony directly to the board. Following that comment period, staff will review and incorporate any comments as appropriate and prepare the plan for final board adoption in May. We do encourage the board, member agencies, and the public to continue providing feedback and input as we finalize the plan, because the plan beyond its regulatory role, it does serve as an important resource resource used by many members of the community, including researchers, planners, community stakeholders, and partner agencies. They rely on it to understand our region's water supply outlook and planning assumptions until the next plan is published. And with that, we're happy to take any questions from the committee.
Thanks, Ephraim. I have a hand up from Director Kirschbaum.
Hi, thank you. I had a question, sorry, going back to the graph. So the way that the graphic with the green, if you could go up one more. So it appears that we're going to be dipping below the demand with the MWD settlement opportunities until 2035. Is that right?
The light green doesn't represent an expectation of not having that supply available. That's an opportunity. So the expectation is we'll be somewhere between the dark green and the top of the light green. Now, if our supplies do go down, so in the near term with our revised demand forecast, we are, as Pierce mentioned earlier in ANF, we do have alignment with our contracted supplies and our projected sales. And so if we do enter into these exchanges, when we enter into these exchanges, we either need to replace that water with Metropolitan, or in this case, we're going to leverage our storage reserves. So that's where you kind of see that yellow come into play on this one, is we're now accessing a new supply, our storage reserves, to replace that water that we need to make sure we meet our demand forecast.
I just want to jump in as well. So I do really think that this slide 60 is the takeaway from all this. So at least the way I look at it is we're essentially at contract supply levels with 25,000 acre feet worth of exchanges. That's demonstrated by the dotted red line and the light green being almost equal through 2035. If we can move the rest of the 50,000 acre feet worth of water that we have in the Met settlement agreement, you take the 54,000, the 55, and the 55 on the top line and reduce it by 25,000 acre feet, and your band shrinks even further. A further mitigating factor for those outlying years would be interstate water transfers. And what we have planned, what we're attempting to do through the legal structure, the legal framework on the river, to then reduce that even further. So the goal is to get to as close as the red line, if you will, as you can. If you ever dip below it, to a point I think that was asked earlier, what do you do? Well, we always have the ability to go back and buy Metropolitan water.
Anybody else have a question? Okay. Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks to your staff. So we don't have any information. We have no closed session, and I was hoping to be the winner of the time. I'm not sure I am, but we're adjourned.
We have formal board in 5.
All right, everybody. I'd like to reconvene the March 19th, 2026 meeting of the San Diego County Water Authority Board of Directors at 2:58 p.m. As a reminder, today's meeting is conducted in person with Director Quaylen participating remotely from the publicly accessible location included on the agenda. All votes taken today will be by roll call vote. As we move through our agenda, I will be moderating requests to speak. To request to speak, please press the speaker button at your seat in case you forgot. Vice Chair Hilliker, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance again? Thank you, Vice Chair Hilliker. Madam Deputy Clerk, will you please call the roll and announce whether a quorum is present?
Secretary Acosta? Here. Directors Flessy? Here. Katz?
Here.
Paul?
Yes, present.
Coates Hedberg? Here. Scalzetti?
Here.
Hilliker? Vice Chair Hilliker? Directors Morrison? Here. Myers?
Here.
Rivera? Roback? Quaylen?
Here.
Williams? Heidemann?
Here.
Norman?
Here.
Wall?
Here.
Abdullahi? Ayala? Buckowitz? Douglas?
Here.
Fong Sakai? Macedo?
Here.
Madaffer?
Here.
Molina? Here. Chair Serrano?
Here.
Directors Whitburn?
Here.
Supervisor Desmond? Directors Lyons?
Here.
Freehoff?
Present.
Castaneda? Kirschbaum?
Here.
Aramp?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
Ray? You have a quorum?
Thank you. Item 4 is public comment, part 2. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the board on items of interest within the subject matter of the board. Madam Deputy Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak?
If there are any public speakers in the Zoom waiting room, please raise your hand through the Zoom app or press *9 if listening by phone. I see none.
All right, thank you very much. Item 5 is additions to the agenda. Madam Deputy Clerk, do we have any additions to today's agenda?
No.
Great. Item 6 is the approval of minutes. Before us is the Board of Directors meeting minutes for February 26, 2026. Do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion from Director Ayala, a second by Director Molina. Madam Deputy Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Directors Flessy. Yes. Katz.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes, approve.
Coates Hedberg.
Yes.
Scalzetti.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hilliker.
Yes.
Directors Morrison.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Roback. Quaylen.
Yes.
Heidemann.
Yes.
Norman. Wall.
Yes.
Ayala. Buckowitz.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Macedo.
Yes.
Madaffer.
Yes.
Molina.
Yes.
Chair Serrano.
Yes.
Directors Whitburn.
Yes.
Lines.
Yes.
Freehoff.
Yes.
Kirschbaum.
Yes.
Arant and Miller. Item passes.
Thank you very much. Item 7 is our presentations and public hearings for which there are none. Item 8 is the report by chairs. You've heard enough from me today, so I have no report. Item 8B is the report of committee actions. Madam Deputy Clerk, will you please provide a report of the actions taken by committee today?
Imported Water amended the agreement with M Strategic Communications for continued consulting services through February 29, 2028 by $192,000 for a period of 24 additional months with total contract funding not to exceed $2,562,000. The Administrative and Finance Committee noted and filed the monthly treasurer's report, authorized the general manager to enter into compensation agreements with the city of San Diego and accepted proceeds from real property transfers to the city's Naval Training Center site amounting to $2,742.07, the city's Walker Scott site amounting to $1,664.05, and the city's Chinese Historical Museum site amounting to $337.15. Authorized the general manager to issue a capacity charges refund in the amount of $107,179 to Katie Logan LLC. Authorized staff to schedule debt management activities, including the issuance of a new senior lien water revenue bond to fund the capital improvement programs, restructuring Series 11 of the commercial paper program and refunding the select senior lien bonds, and authorize the selection of a financing parties for associated debt management activities. The Legislation and Public Outreach Committee adopted a position of oppose on HR 7078, the Equal Access and Colorado River Act, adopted a position of support on S 3923, the Weather Research and Forecasting Innovation Reauthorization Act, adopted a position of support on AB 2880, Proposition 218, Omnibus Implementation Act, Proportional Cost of Service, adopted a position of oppose unless amended on AB 2013, Fire Risk Areas, Water Suppliers, Emergency Preparedness Plan, and adopted a position of support on SB 1153, Disaster Preparedness, Urban Retail Water Suppliers, and Public Water Systems Wildfire. The Water Planning Environmental Committee had no reportable action, and that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. That will populate our consent calendar, and I'll entertain a motion to approve consent
moved.
calendar items 9.1 through 9.6.
Molina.
I have a motion from Director Molina, a second from Vice Chair Hilliker. Madam Deputy Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Directors Flessy.
Yes.
Katz.
Yes.
Paul.
Paul is a no on 9.1, yes on all others.
Coates Hedberg.
Yes.
Scalzetti.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hilliker.
Yes.
Morrison.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Rivera. Roback. Quaylen.
Yes.
Heidemann.
Yes.
Norman.
Yes.
Wall.
Yes.
Ayala.
Yes.
Buckowitz.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Macedo.
Yes.
Madaffer. Molina.
Yes.
Chair Serrano.
Yes.
Directors Whitburn.
Yes.
Lines.
Yes.
Freehoff.
Yes.
Kirschbaum.
Yes.
Arant.
Yes.
Miller. Item passes.
Thank you very much. Item 10 is our action, discussion, and information items for which there are none. Moving on to special reports. General Manager's report.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. General Counsel.
Nothing to report.
Sandag report.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Sandag Subcommittees, Borders Committee. I'm not seeing our representative here. Regional Planning Committee, seeing none. AB 1234 compliance reports from any directors. All right, hearing none. Item 12 is our closed session items for which there are two. Mr. General Counsel, will you please take us into closed session?
We'll now adjourn into closed session pursuant to the government code sections noted on the agenda.
You know what?
We have emerged from closed session with nothing to report on either matter.
Thank you, Mr. General Counsel. There being no further business, the Water Authority Board of Directors is now adjourned at 4:03. Thank you all very much.